Hello everyone, welcome back to another Tomato Sauce stream. Today we are going to be playing some KC Cup. Once again we'll be doing it on the Rush account because we really need those gems. We've clawed our way back up to 6,000, but we are still several thousand away from our goal of back to 9999 and then filling up our mailbox. We are expecting new Rush content probably in about 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks seems about right for us to get Zuijo, and we're going to assume Zuijo's going to come with a super mini. So, like, we're going to need gems for that. So, we're probably going to go straight down to 0, which is not ideal. But we will still get to play some speed. Now, there is some issues with that. The primary one being we've been really hoping for a speed ban list that addresses the meta for a while. And we still have the birds going around. Now, birds is a complicated topic, right? Some people love the birds, a lot of people hate the birds. But more importantly for us and our shitty little rogue deck, birds kind of crap all over it. So we were kind of hoping birds would get hit in a big way so that our deck, my selfish want is that my rogue deck does better, right? I need that deck to get hit. The downside is not only has that not happened, but more decks have come out that sort of have a good matchup into my deck, which has created a bit of an awkward situation for us on the speed side. And there's obviously, we want to play on the speed account. We want to play with our full powered deck, but we need the gems on the rush account. So that's kind of where we're sitting right now. As for rush, I mean, again, we're in a similar spot where the meta, in my opinion, is not in a great spot. We do have one deck that is more dominant than any deck has ever been in Rush Duel Links. It makes... It's an awkward one. There are some situations where it's kind of okay, I guess. But I think overall, I think most people are finding this meta to be a little bit frustrating. And that's in kind of both formats. Now, in speed, there is at least stuff going on, right? There's a lot more decks available in speed. There's a lot more skills available. And because of that, there are a lot more, like, counter picks, right? So, for example, we have seen Ghost Trick come in. And Ghost Trick is pretty good against the birds. But then we've seen Shadow come in. And Shadow's pretty good against Ghost Trick. But the birds are pretty good against Shadow. Now, again, do not take me saying that as that is 100% accurate, right? That is just what I have heard. I am not a King of Games or tournament level speed player. I just play it casually on the side. I like to try and keep up with tournaments that people are doing, that they're streaming, that they're playing in, that they're running. And I try to keep up with it. But for the most part, my word is very, very much far from gospel on any of it. But let's see what we've got in the chat. We have Darth Victor. Hello, hello. We have Grand Harrier in with the Ragged Gloves emote. We have Ryugles. Welcome, welcome on in. We need to get Liral Nurse. I mean, it's one of those things where if we talk about the game's health overall, the majority of players that play the game are just ladder Andes, right? They're just people that just play ladder all the time. The people that are really invested into the game are generally the people that play in tournaments, because they're people that are not only playing the game, they're experiencing the game outside of the game, right? They're interacting with other members of the community, etc., etc. And keeping them happy is like a good thing, but I don't think it's the priority of Konami. I think realistically they want to prioritize keeping the ladder players happy because that is going to be the biggest audience. And I think the birds are bad for the ladder. So, like, I don't necessarily mean that as in, oh, birds are plaguing ladder, they're everywhere, because, again, I don't play a ton of ladder. I don't know if that's true. But birds specifically are very, very good into a ton of rogue strategies, and I think because of that, the average player is going to have a more frustrating time playing against them. But at the same time, birds aren't too hard to build, and as far as I'm aware, they're not too hard to play. So you could flip that around and be like, okay, but then like the free-to-play casual players have quite a easy to acquire, easy to play deck that they can jump straight in with. So it's like, it's kind of all over the place. Metari, was that Globe we see? And Manicist, welcome, welcome, good old Metarian. What is your thoughts on Sidra Rush? Now, ooh, okay. Sidra is a cool deck. I think it is It's the most fair, good deck right now. The deck doesn't do anything that's super unfair. Like, Assault Dragon is really, really good, but compare that to Metarion or to Light Galaxy, it's whatever. Getting out the Cyber Dragons, again, really, really good. Compare it to what the other decks can do, it's probably fine. Summoning out Cyber Twin or Cyber End, again, really, really strong plays, but compare it to what the two decks that are performing better than it are doing, it seems kind of mid. It's one of those weird things where I think Cyber Dragon is a strong deck. And if we didn't have Metarion and Light Galaxy, Cyber Dragon would be probably the strongest deck. It would be, we'd probably have, if we just took out, right, if we just completely removed all the Metarion and all of the Light Galaxy cards, I would predict the top decks would be Cyber Dragon, Dragon Fusion, and then probably the Blaster's Inferno deck. Like, that deck is really cool and can do quite well. It's just all of the decks we've just listed, like all three of those, have really awkward matchups in the current meta. Cyber Dragon probably has the least awkward ones, but still kind of has to go wide, or at least wants to go wide to really do its strategy and its overall game plan, which can get bullied a bit by Metarion. I mean, Metarion kind of bullies everyone, but it bullies that more because it's just, you get really punished if they have the OTK. So, like, but if Cyber Dragon gets going early, they can just bully you out of the game. So it's kind of a toss-up, right? I also think Cyber Dragon has quite a good Light Galaxy matchup, and Light Galaxy has an okay Metarion matchup. So because of that, there's almost a triangle of decks, except it doesn't actually end up feeling like that because Light Galaxy doesn't beat Metarion as hard as it needs to. So because of that, it's like a lopsided triangle. It's a bit weird. I said this before, though. When we get more cards, this will be less of an issue because Rush's decks are more relevant for longer. Problem is lack of content for Rush, and instead, I mean, yeah, you're not wrong, Manicus. The thing is, the problem right now, like the immediate problem, Metarion too good, right? If we boil it down, if we oversimplify, Metarion too good is the problem. There are so many ways we could fix this, right? Release more cards, release stronger cards, nerf Metarion, nerf the skill, take some cards away from them, you know, bring out a bunch of back row. There's so many ways we could fix it. But it comes down to what is actually gonna happen, right? And again, we always return to the point of, until something changes, still, Metarion too good. And that's kind of where we're at right now. There's Darth Victor. Hello. It did well in a recent tournament where they didn't allow Metarion. So, if we're talking about the monosync tournament, the not skillless, what was it? It was like the two skills were banned. Realistically, in that tournament, Metarion is still very, very playable. They took away the skill. That was it. So you can't do the 3+2. You can't do the Imaginary Arc Turbo stuff. But the deck was winning tournaments before it got that skill. And the deck has won tournaments without that skill. It's won with both Fusion Deal and Spearhead Draw. So realistically, I think most people just chose not to play it. They still could have played it at almost full power and it still would have been fantastic. But Cyber Dragon still does well. Like, even in full power Metarion tournaments, Cyber Dragon is still doing... let's hop over to here. Let us jump over to here quick. Well, let's take a quick look, right? So Cyber Dragon has still got second place. Made top 4, made top 4, made top 4, made top 4. Like, the deck is still, like, around. Like, it's not trash. It's not, like, bad. It's still around. It's just nowhere near Metarion, right? So, like, it's one of those weird ones. Let's try and catch up with the chat a little bit, because we are yapping a lot. That is what we do, though. I just heard you say, hi, I'm currently focusing on working stuff. Yeah, you definitely focus on your work rather than me yapping, Victor. Honestly, I enjoy Heroes Rush. I also really do enjoy Heroes. I love playing Heroes. They just feel very awkward in this current meta. Jorfio is the only person that's really made them work properly, and the only one that has any kind of decent result with them, so... I've done all right against birds in KC so far. What have you been playing, out of curiosity, Manicust? I would like to know what you have been on. Because I know that you do actually dabble quite a lot. Because I was under the impression you barely played any speed. And then I think you won a tournament, that you won a Quantum Dailies, and I was like, oh damn, Manicust got hands. Sydra's Rush are fair. Interesting. They're fair comparatively to Metarian and Light Galaxy. Comparatively, it's fine. If you was to say, like, Cyber Dragon versus the decks that are worse than it, then it gets a bit more up in the air. Like, Cyber Dragon feels a lot better than E-Heroes. It feels a lot better than Spellcasters. It feels a lot better than Cyburst and Psychic and Ice Arc and Machines now. Like, well, maybe not the new machines. Like, the original Ultimate Bond machines. I think it does feel a little bit better than that now. Darth, that's wrong button that closes Twitch down. Yesterday, Blasters Inferno won, I think, in the No Metarian and Galaxy tournament. That is interesting. I actually ended up going to bed before that tournament finished. I saw Blasters Inferno was doing very, very well, which is definitely good. Blasters Inferno as well is a deck I think that can take games off the big boys. It can beat Metarian. It can beat Light Galaxy. The problem that I have with that deck is it is very piece reliant. Like, if you just don't find Volcano Attack Dragon, if it's just all at the bottom of your deck, if you just don't find Dragonic Pressure, if you just don't find Secret Order, and that's 3 unsearchable cards that are all very, very, very important to your strategy. So, like, the deck's good. I think the deck is fine. It can definitely win games, but having to rely on 3 unsearchable cards, I think, is a little bit volatile. I don't think I would like to rely on that deck in, like, a super competitive setting. But I do think it is really cool to play. I think it's very fun. And I think, again, if you do just... It's not even get lucky. It's if you don't get unlucky, the deck should perform okay, right? Well, I might need to join some of these tournaments. I'm really getting tired of all the meta. Morning, beautiful people. Hello, Kuova. Oh, we do have... how do we do this? If we do exclamation mark RDL. There we go. There is the Rush Duel Links Discord server. That's exclamation mark RDL. Blasters Inferno versus Sidra in the finals. Release full Metarian Ashura start. That'll fix the meta. So there was the talk at the start of, like, before Metarian even came out, before we had the entire list, like, released, there was talk about them potentially releasing the, oh god, what is it called? There's Imaginary Reactor, and then there was the boss monster, who gets you back I think it's like, gets you back a normal monster, and it gets you back Fusion from the graveyard. I cannot remember what it's called, but, like, that one. And you think about how strong Metarian is now, and it's like, oh yeah, we'll just give them more support. That will solve everything. It's like, no. We need to take the support away, if anything. You're extra beautiful. Fire Dragon won something. Yeah, Fire Dragon's a cool deck. The only issue with... So I really do love the fact that we're getting these, like, meme tournaments. We're getting tournaments that ban specific skills, tournaments that ban specific cards. And Yaden has been doing some really cool stuff with his roulette tournaments and these, like, multi-deck events and stuff. The only issue is it's hard to put them on the spreadsheet because they don't follow the same rules as everywhere else. So the information gained from them is nice to have as, like, supplementary evidence, but it's meme tournaments like Quantum. Exactly, you get it. Geoffia gets it. But it's hard to derive anything solid from them. Like, I look at it as, like looking at point battle results. It's like, oh, this does okay in point battles. This maybe would affect my opinion of a deck, rather than, okay, we're going to put it into, like, we're going to take it as fact. We're going to put it into the spreadsheet. We're going to have it in the data, because it's difficult when it follows different rules effectively. Now, I came second in that tournament. Didn't read properly. I'm playing Ancient Warrior. Can watch my newest replay for a bird match. Okay, we can check that out. I definitely want to see some of this as well. Because, again, we haven't really been playing much speed, so we're very much behind on the entire meta. We'll take a look at the tier list update in a minute as well, actually. Honestly, I don't know if you will agree with me on this, but Konami needs to chill on these skills. Getting free summons, getting free searches, getting free broken and OP cards is wild. So, right. My opinion is, if the only way that your shitty, horrible deck can keep up in the meta is with a broken skill, it's fine, right? If your deck is Unga Bunga, like literally does nothing, and the skill plays the entire game for you, and you become like the best deck in the game, that's a problem. Because one, that's not very interesting. That's not necessarily very fun, especially if you're playing against that deck. You're just like, oh, you just clicked the yellow button and won the game. But if like you get an Unga Bunga deck that has a really overpowered skill that pushes it to tier 3, that's fine, because it's not the best deck in the game. I don't care. That is completely fine, right? If you have a deck that is like keeping up but can't quite break into the meta, and then they get a very good skill to push them up again into like tier 3, tier 2, I also think that's fine. Because the whole point of skills is they overcome the deck's weaknesses and shortcomings that exist because the wrong cards were printed, not like the right cards were never printed. This is just missing support that it hasn't got from the physical game because it would be too overpowered, or it's just an archetype that never got that support and it just needs something more if it wants to be playable, right? So like, I see both sides of the argument of skills are getting too overpowered in Duel Links, and I think at the end of the day, if the meta is fun, nothing else really matters. That's the way I look at it. If I'm enjoying playing the game, it doesn't matter if a deck has an overpowered skill. Now, again, if that skill is so overpowered, that deck becomes tier 0 and it's dominating everything and it's toxic and I hate playing against it, that's a different matter. And you could maybe make a small argument about Lyrilusk there, but I don't actually think the skill is like super busted. Like, the skill is fine. And it looks like we're in an ad break, so we'll just wait for this to finish up before we actually continue on with this discussion. But it's a weird one. I think there's a lot of people that got very big in the, like, skills are ruining Duel Links, and I think they go a little bit overboard. That's kind of how I look at it, is, again, if the game is fun, it doesn't matter. If you want, I can send a video of me beating down Predator plants with traps. Literal and Shadows do this, Lamel. I mean, I feel like even without the skill, Lyrilusk would still be, like, fine. The skill just, like, pushes it over the edge. Because the main issue of Lyrilusk isn't the skill. It's the actual boss monsters themselves. The skill get you to the boss monsters easier, which, you know, you could make the argument that's the problem. But, I don't actually think the skill itself is the big issue. Well, I think this meta has the highest skill expression ever. Speed meta, I mean. Ghost Tricks and Birds are a bit easier to play, but Predator Plants and Shadows are really difficult, and a single misplay could lose you the game. That is a fair enough opinion as well, because, again, I will always say this. Whenever I have any opinion on speed, right, it is always going to be from the point of view of a guy that doesn't really play in tournaments, a guy that only really plays ladder, a guy that only really plays one rogue deck. So, my perspective is always going to be extraordinarily narrow. Now, again, I like to feel empathetic towards a lot of other people. I like to take a lot of their feedback and, you know, absorb that, formulate my own opinions based on it. But, for the most part, I don't really have a horse in this race other than I want my rogue deck to do well. So, no matter, like, how the meta actually is, all I can say is, from the casual ladder perspective, the deck doesn't feel, or the game doesn't feel like it's in a good spot right now. From a competitive tournament, or better yet, like Team War perspective, the game might be in a fantastic spot. But that's just not what I'm looking at, right? So, I do like the idea. In fact, let's jump over to here. Let's jump over to here, because we want to have a look at the tier list updates anyway. I do like the idea that tournament players are having a great time, and if that goes, you know, because it's like Giorgio said, highest skill expression. Now, I assume by that statement, Giorgio, you're having a great time. You're loving the speed meta right now. That is my takeaway from the way that you've said that. But having high skill expression doesn't necessarily translate to having fun. Now, I'm sure, again, for you, it seems like a great meta. It seems like it's fun. We're all having a great time, right? But I don't know if the average casual Andy is going to be having that. And I think they're going to be the loud voices that we're going to be hearing. Now, I agree with Giorgio. I'm a Shadow player, and I know that Shadows are toxic as hell because they can easily win games If your opponent misplays, it's GG. It's one of those things where I think Shadow, if you compare them, right? Lyrilusk, Predaplant, Ghost Trick, and I guess Fleur a little bit, but like not so much. When you have like a deck that super polys you, turns off your effects, tributes your monsters, you have a deck that has Waboku, built-in protection, quick effect bounce multiple times a turn, and you have a deck that's going to reduce the damage that you take, be setting a load of stuff, stop you from attacking constantly. I legit think in this meta, Shadow doesn't even look that bad. Like, compared to the other stuff we got going on, Shadow looks kind of nice. Like, it doesn't look toxic in this meta, just because there's so much other stuff that has a big target on it. Yeah, no, I mean, it was just to say, even with broken skills, the decks are not necessarily easy. Well, again, that's a good thing as well. Because there are some decks like Cyber Dragon, not Cyber Dragon, like Blue Eyes is a good example of a deck that that was one of the strongest decks for a long time. Hasn't been for a while, but it was doing well. It was winning tournaments. That deck, at the very least at a surface level, looked extraordinarily easy to play, and the skills feel like they did a lot for that deck. So I think that's kind of the time when I started seeing people saying about, like, yellow button wins the most. Since then, I think it's been a lot less. Like, I guess another big one would actually have been the Star Seraphs. Star Seraphs, I think, was a big one where a lot of people were like, bro, this deck is so toxic, and you just press yellow button and win. But, you know, it happens. All I know is that Konami needs to stop releasing cards like the ones we have talked about. I don't know if it's just me, but I seem to do better in Rush and when I play at speed. When I play a deck I enjoy more regardless of how good it is, I've won more with rogue decks than something meta. I struggle to win with Fleur though. So with what Manicist is saying, I think that comes down to the more you play a deck, the more you'll get used to it, the more you'll like it, the more you'll understand the matchups, the more you'll make micro plays during the game that are better, right? If you play a deck that's good because you know it's good, if you don't enjoy it, you're not really going to be necessarily paying as much attention to like a lot of these micro decisions that come up. I think when you see people one-trick a deck, especially, they get to learn the lines that you won't necessarily see as often, right? And then they'll naturally be able to bring out the deck's like hidden potential. Because a lot of decks are quite simple, but there are still going to be small little, like, unintuitive plays you can make that just a lot of people just won't see. I agree with that guy in the first two comments. I mean, we'll have a look at here in a sec. We're going to read through them in a sec. I struggle a lot with Fleur, although I am starting to enjoy Magistus more than Shadow. Magistus is like a weird deck. I've never been a huge fan of Magistus. But then again, you know, there are so many archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh! There's going to be so many that I don't get on with, right? Metarion, we need a command for that. I mean, if someone wants to, like, make an emote, I could make it as an emote. That's fine with me. I'm just very lazy. That's just what it comes down to. They combo a lot. See, I am my own worst enemy, right? I am a dumbass. I don't see lines quickly. I spend a lot of time processing what's happening and then working out what the best combo line is. But the only decks I like playing in speed are combo decks. So it's a problem I force onto myself, but I don't really have a solution. When I play speed, I'm like, oh, cool, I'll play a combo deck. And then I'll be running out of time because I only get like 3 minutes to do this combo, which again, a younger, smarter man would be able to just know the combo lines and do them a lot quicker. But I'm a dumbass, so it takes me longer to get it done. I have always... I mean, So I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! When it very first came out. Like, so, you know, my very first cards was a Kaiba structure deck, right? Or starter deck. And I, therefore, played competitively from Pharaonic Guardian. Actually, it would have been pre-Pharaonic Guardian. I played competitively from Pharaoh's Servant up until one of the later sets in 5Ds. That was my, like, competitive of, like, playing the TCG. And because of that, we weren't really in like a combo heavy meta, right? It was GOAT, right? It was GOAT into Edison. So like GOAT into Edison is where I had the most experience. That's where, you know, I learned how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! I won several tournaments playing that style of meta. We went to Nationals several times. We had a great time. Absolutely loved it. But the game was at a slower pace. It just was. That's just how the game was back then. So now that we're in like super combo heavy metas, that, you know, the game is extraordinarily fast paced. Obviously we have all the new summoning mechanics. I say new. We have the latest summoning mechanics. We have, you know, all of these decks that are like super fast and they can combo off. And we have this like, especially in like Master Duel and TCG of like build a board and then like try and break a board kind of meta. It's not easy to adjust. And Master Duel is kind of okay because you get a long time. You get a long time to actually take your turns. You get so much more time in Master Duel than you do in Duel Links. And I love that. But then we come over to Duel Links and the time is just so short. British overthinking at its finest. 100%, 100%. TLDR tomato old. Yes, tomato old is definitely what it is. I'm basically just a Yugi boomer. It's like when we heard that the Chinese Duel Links was getting GOAT format, I was like, yeah, can I have that? I want to play that. But I've played GOAT format. Like when I first started getting back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Me and my friend that I used to play tournaments with, we started playing GOAT on EDO. And it was fun for like a week. And then we were like, oh, it's just this forever. Right? There's not really much innovation. There aren't that many interesting decks outside of like really meme stuff. So like GOAT format itself, not super interesting. But then Edison, very, very fun. I really, really like Edison. So if Edison format could just come to Duel Links, that would be fantastic. I would love that so much. Yeah, that's what I hate about old formats. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot worse with GOAT specifically because there is very clearly like 3 playable decks, and then like there is a massive drop in power level. They're just soul formats. Yes, 100%. But that's what, in a weird way, that's what Duel Links was when it first came out, right? It was anime / cards that didn't do very well / just some fun shit. We're going to release it all in the wrong order. We're going to give you some skills to buff up some strategies, and it's still going to be that slow, methodical gameplay. And I loved that. Like, I really did. I stopped playing Duel Links originally because of, God, what was it? It was EX structure decks. And it was getting like a bit piss-takey where like every time an EX structure deck released, at least at the start, I would remember being like, oh, this is just everywhere now. And I just don't want to spend a load of money to get all of this stuff. Because then I was very, very, very much free to play. We were not buying anything because, you know, I was struggling teenager, trying to get all my shit done, like studies and everything, and I was like, I can't spend money on this. There's some formats. Well, GOAT doesn't have even the archetype, basically, lol. Everything is just good stuff and broken spell traps. What do you mean no archetypes? We had Gravekeepers! Yeah! The best archetype! Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It was basically just chaos. It was just chaos. Like Monarchs existed, but like Chaos Monarchs was even a list. Ancient Gear Structure was my good times. So was that the Ancient Gear Gadgiltron Dragon structure, or was that the... Because there was a second Ancient Gear structure, right? But then there was also... Was that Ancient Gears in the first Machina structure as well? Because there were 2 Machina structures, which is a weird one. Wasn't that Edison? So Edison does have Monarchs, and Edison does have Chaos, but they're different, right? So in GOAT, so GOAT is all the way up until the Lost Millennium, which was Ancient Gear, Golem, and Elemental Hero set. So we had, it was everything before Cyber Dragon, basically. So we still had all the Monarchs except like Caius, Ryza. So the Monarchs at the time was Zaborg, Mobius, Thestalos, maybe Gramnarg? I think Gramnarg was in like the latest set. So, like, Monarchs looked very different. You basically just played Soul Exchange, summoned out Zaborg, popped the monster, right? That's kind of it. That's as deep as it went. Chaos Sorcerer was at 3, and we had Blackluster Soldier. And that was it, kind of, for Chaos. And then, like, you'd get, like, variations on Chaos builds, like Mystic Tomato and Shining Angel of, like, creature swap, and there was a lot of stuff with that. A second one with reactor. Trying to remember which one reactor is. Have a look quick. Ancient Gear Structure Deck. So like this one? That's Dark World. This is the one that I had. I had this. Because I remember I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Right? I got like out of Yu-Gi-Oh! And then I wanted to go back about 6 months after I'd stopped. And after I went back, like, again, all your cards, like, your staples are still kind of fine, but after, like, 6 months, like, 2 new sets have come out, and everything's been power crept and shit. So what I did was I bought 3 copies of this structure deck, threw in a few staples, and then took it to a tournament, and I got 2nd place playing against one of my friends who was playing X-Saber. And this was, like, during the height of, like, Edison format. And I was just so happy that after not playing the game at all for like half a year, we just managed to go back in and take 2nd place. It just felt so good. Second one, reactor, sub T. How's your D level? I mean, we have basically not played. We haven't played yet today. I'll tell you that much. And we haven't. God, where is there? This one, machine reactor. This one. I assume this is the one that Manicus had. The machine reactor structure deck. But yeah, we haven't played any since the last stream we did, which I guess was Tuesday. We haven't done any in like a week. So like we're super far behind. And right now we're literally just, you know, we're yapping about and we're reminiscing about the old days. Is what we're doing right now. That's how you know you've officially reached peak old age. I hated X-Saver. My friend used to loot my hand constantly. Yeah, I played, again, in the finals of this tournament. My opponent, who was my friend called Matt, he like hand looped me on turn 1 and took like 2 or 3 cards out of my hand, and then I was just like, oh, I guess I'm just playing with half a deck. This is fine. Is that L9 Ray with the balls? Welcome on in. But yeah, after we went on a bit of a tangent, but the whole point was I quite like slower formats. And I think that's, again, why I gravitated towards Rush in general. Rush is, like, still faster than Edison or, like, Goat, right? Because basically in Rush, you are spamming the board constantly. You're constantly having to, like, rethink about card economy in completely different ways. Like, when you were thinking about, like, Edison and Goat, card economy is everything, right? Like, replay everyone called Matt. I mean, I don't think about that. But it's like, when you play like Goat or Edison, you set one back row and you go, am I setting a second back row? Because my opponent could have Heavy Storm. And if he 2-for-1s me, that's insane. That could lose me the game, right? But in Rush, you don't give a shit. I'm setting my whole hand. Please don't snipe my Legend Trap, right? It's just, it's very different games, right? And that's just, but I do like the whole Master Duel / TCG thing of build a board and break a board. I do think that is very fun. I think it is less fun than a simpler format, personally. Which is why, again, I really do like Duel Links. And I think Duel Links Speed is more fun than Master Duel. Now, do I think the current meta is more fun? No, because I can't beat birds consistently, and that is a problem. Now, that problem might only be for me, but it's still a problem that I have to deal with. Balls. Replay everyone called Matt. Rush is like a true middle ground of TCG Yu-Gi-Oh! In terms of speed and interactions and stuff. Yeah, it's one of those things where I think, when I think about when Yu-Gi-Oh! Started picking up the pace and got like very do all of this shit in one turn, I always think to like 6 Samurai at the end of Synchro era, right? Like the Secret 6 Samurai stuff. I think that's when I was like, oh, the game started speeding up. But that was like in a really cool way. Then it kind of slowed down again at the beginning of the Xyz format. Because Xyz format is when we had like all the trap formats. And it was just like everyone slamming like 15 to 20 traps in the deck. And then we got over that hurdle and reached Pendulum format. And that's when the game, like, drastically changed forever, right? You can solve this problem with ghost tricks. I know. So, Georgia, I feel like this meta specifically is, like, made for you. Because you love ghost tricks and you love Shadow, right? So, like, I feel like you're just having a great time right now, regardless. Play Necros. Ugh. Duelist Alliance was when I feel everything got too crazy. I mean, that's fair enough. Duelist Alliance is when I got back into the game, or a little bit after Duelist Alliance, and I started playing online simulators again. I got really into, like, Fluffle. We played a lot of Madolche. We played DDD. I really liked a lot of the Arc V decks. So I'm, like, a little bit biased towards liking that era, but, you know. And then, boom, Dark Lords. For me, the problem with Rush has almost always been back row or the lack of it. Yeah, I mean... Yeah. The thing is, like, we've talked about this so many times, but we'll go and have a look at it again. If we go to what am I looking for? We're looking for rushcard.io. So let's go take a quick look, because this is just a nice place to look at it. If we go to card database, we want packs. We go over here. So this is just all the cards that were released. Oh, that's not helpful. Because you got to remember, we have a completely different format to, like, what we had, right? So initially we had Dark Rev, which is, again, a pretty powerful trap card. I think it's we know why we don't have this card. You know, it would put us into a meta where everyone played Spellcasters, Mirror Force the Surly's too broken. But then we go over to Luke's deck. We haven't got Dragon Encounter, or Vengeful Dragon Counterattack. These are two traps that we just had at the start. So Counterattack is discard a dragon. I think it's when one of your dragons is destroyed by battle. I mean, we can just read it. I don't know why I have to pretend. When a dragon type monster in your field destroyed by an opponent's attacks, and one card from your hand to the graveyard, destroy one monster in your opponent's field. So this is like the dragon version, which is a lot worse, right? We have to keep a card in our hand at the end of the turn. We then need to send that card to the graveyard, and we get to pop a monster on our opponent's field. This monster can be anything though, so like this will pop maxes. Well, it won't pop a max because maxes are protected. But there's like maybe 1 or 2 maxes that aren't protected, but this is not going to work on most maxes. This will pop like a fusion, right? So this works on face up, face down as well. This one, a little bit more niche. It's when your opponent normal special summons a monster, special summon a dragon monster from your hand. So again, we get a dragon stuck on our hand. We can cheat it out. Like, but we don't have even like the quote unquote bad traps. And the reason we don't have them is because counterattack would be fantastic right now. This would be great in this meta right now. Right? Because we just have so little back row. It's insane. Unfortunately, I don't have Ghost Tricks, but at least Shadows are the best deck, so we good. I mean, yeah, there is that. Is that the GOAT Mr. Tomat? The tournament future champion. I mean, I don't know about that, mate. We barely, like, play tournaments, like, super seriously at the moment. Especially in metas that I'm not, like, super into. We just kind of, like, play random-ass decks all the time at the moment. But yeah, welcome on in, Sakadetsu. It's when I got into Online Simulators 2, I had so much fun, but that was the start of the end in my eyes. I loved playing, like, DDD and Fluffle just so much. Like, I absolutely adore those decks. Real Rush had the Mirror Force for Spellcasters. I don't know if that format was better, though. Right. It was different. I would argue that the meta of having Dark Revelation and more powerful traps like Counterattack was more fun to play. But there were like 2 good decks in the game, and then everything else was meme, and this went on for like a year or longer, right? There was a long period where you'd have like some people like cooking up some fancy list, and realistically it just was not doing anything to the top decks. So like the game was more fun, but there was like no diversity. So if you're the kind of person that only wants to be in a diversive meta, right? You just want diversity, you want there to be lots of different decks, you want to be able to change your deck frequently, flip around a bunch. It was awful. If you're the kind of person that just wants to get one deck and stick with it, it was fantastic, especially if you like Dragon Casters. Dragon Casters, because again, you could basically get an entire Dragon Casters list just by buying these structure decks. Just get 3 copies of each, bam, you're good to go, right? So from a, like, having to spend money on the game, a lot of the time you just skip boxes because there's just nothing in it that makes your Dragon Caster list better. So, like, The actual game themselves and the actual playing of the game, I would argue, was probably more fun in OCG than it was in Duel Links, but Duel Links had the thing that Duel Links does, right? We get things in different orders. They hold stuff back. They give us skills to buff things that never particularly did well. Because of that, we got a lot of diversity, and the diversity aspect is quite fun. I mean, if we just go back and look like through the ages, right? Obviously, it's not too easy for y'all to see on this, but we can see like Bubble Era. Bubble Era was a good deck for a bit, right? Like, where was... Did Bubble Era win? Like, Bubble Era won a tournament, right? Now, that's not a particularly... You know, it's one result, but it still won a tournament. Royal Rebels. Royal Rebels never did anything for the longest time. Like, the best you get is like Royal Rebels plus Dragius, and you use it as like an engine, but it was never like actually really good. Resonance obviously made Dragonic Slayer good. Dragonic Slayer was ass in the original. Ancient Forces was a deck like that didn't exist as a real playable decent deck in the OCG. There's Bubble Era again. Royal Rebels doing, I mean, this was this is a HTI format, so we don't really count this too much, but you know, Overlord was a deck, but it wasn't a good deck. It was a meme deck. Then we've got, what else have we got? Like SAR, like Spellcasters being good without Mirror Force is insane, right? Nobody would have expected that, I don't think. We got Harpies being released super early. Obviously, we never had that. Like Thunder was a playable deck. There's so many different things that happened in Duel Links that just did not happen in the OCG. And because of that, it made it very interesting and very fun, especially if you already played the OCG and you're coming over, you're now like, oh, this is refreshing. I don't just get to play the game I've already played a bunch, I get to play this new version. But if you never played the OCG and this is your only experience to Rush, it might feel a little bit worse because, you know, the meta is not necessarily in a good spot. We're missing a lot of back row. There's less interaction. The games are a lot quicker. 2,000 less life points just mean that OTK decks feel a lot stronger. So, like, I will never be able to see the game from the perspective of this is the only experience of playing Rush, right? Because I played through those formats. I already know what the game was like then. So for me, this is refreshing. But to a lot of other people, they might play it and go like, man, this Rush game seems like ass. Why would you bring this over from Japan? I just finished building Ghost Tricks. I gotta figure out how to play it. I want battle traps that modify by like 800 to 1,000. It's a tricky... The thing is, we don't really get a lot of them. For the most part, they go like 500 to like 3,000. Like the jump of battle traps gets a bit nuts. Hello, everyone. Hello, Saka. There's a battle trap that modifies by 2,000 on your monster, though. I mean, yeah, that's not exactly great. 15 Street from Zaki Boys. Welcome on in, Zaki Boys, as well. Gunkan Suship Shari, welcome on in. Spinning my wheels at level 19. Birds and plants keep messing my streaks. Rules of nature. I just cannot wrap my head around the fact that you keep making these decks that are absolutely busted at destroying back row and then don't give us any back row. So the limited amount of back row we do have doesn't do anything most of the time. I'm trying to think. So I guess we're talking about Metarion and Psychic? Is that Gun King Suship Shari subscribing with Prime? Thank you so much, Gun King Suship Shari. We do really appreciate that. Oh man, it's been a... I say that. I think we actually had quite a few of those a little while ago. But still, we absolutely do adore you, Gun King Suship Shari. Thank you so much. Man, that tune really does keep going, huh? Just give us battle traps that change positions. So,
Prime.
We're in a weird spot, though, where position-changing traps, good. Right? I'm happy for that. Position-changing traps that are generic and work on the problematic cards in the format, not so good. The only one I can really think of is going to be, like, Shiny Shady. Because it's generic, and it works on fusion monsters. Now, the downside is this is a card that sees regular play in the OCG right now. So do we want a card that modern and that powerful that still sees play to this day in Rush Duels? Because that means this card would be around forever, right? Like, unless the meta drastically changed, like in a very, very meaningful way, basically until we got to the power level of the cards that we have right now, this card would still be seeing play. But then when we think about other ones that change battle positions, we always think about things like Demotion. Battle Demotion, in fact, we'll make this like over here just so it's easier to see. This card is fantastic, but it has a little caveat on it, which says here, face up machine type monster. So this is the other issue, is a lot of these battle traps are type specific. Not all types are created the same. As we saw when Konami released the barrier, they want to try, the keyword being try, to release back row that everyone can use. They don't want to give one deck back row and not give another deck back row, because then that wouldn't be fair. That's kind of how I see them doing this, just based on what they've done in the past. Because of that, I think they're planning to drop a whole bunch of traps at once. The problem being that still, not all decks are created equally. Some decks have better back row than others, which is, again, that's part of the game balance. One deck is meant to have better back row than another deck, and then that other deck could like have better monsters, for example. The problem is something like Battle Demotion, which is like, you have Innovator, and Innovator is fantastic. And we've just given machines something like Ancient Gear Golem. And we've also given them like Reactor. So it's like, do we want to give machines specifically Battle Demotion? Because if we think about it, we go to current tournaments, we have seen Machine Good Stuff has won a tournament, and it has gotten a top 4 spot. So the deck's like doing okay. Now, it's not crazy, right? It's nowhere near Metarian like Galaxy or Cyber Dragon realistically, but it's still doing fine. And then obviously Cyber Dragon could also play this card, which again, wouldn't be a problem because it's still not Metarian or like Galaxy, right? Realistically, Cyber Dragon could have this card, it wouldn't really change much. But the issue comes in suddenly any deck that doesn't have one of these traps is going to feel like ass. That's where I think the problem comes in. That's what Konami's worried about. I personally think you have to just rip the band-aid off, just give the decks their traps, and then if they don't have good traps, like if you're that worried, just put a couple of like weak traps in current sets that are coming out, right? Like in the OCG, there's so much like box chaff. Just stick a crap trap in there that would be fine for Duel Links, and then just put it in and bring it out early. Like maybe the Duel Links team has like no communication whatsoever with the OCG team, and that's like impossible. But like, just do that. It just seems like such a simple fix. Okay, Thunderspark SR. Yeah, it's a weird one. Alright, so the other problem, the other issue we do have right now is Type Change Beam. Because a lot of decks have these cool trap cards. The problem is they say your monster has to be of a certain type. So if Ashura comes, well, not necessarily Ashura, if Metarian comes along and they change your type, now your trap cards that could save you don't work. So if we did give all of these decks their type-specific trap cards, Type Change Beam still messes it up. So like, I feel like there is no world in which we just let Type Change Beam live, just because it's so problematic in so many different ways. In ways it just was not problematic in the OCG, because it was never really a thing in the OCG. Why they released TCB in the first place. All right, so TCB originally, like in the anime, it was used with everybody's favorite little guy, Mirror Innovator, right? The whole point of TCB originally was to use Mirror Innovator, change its type into something that's like the same as something in your graveyard, because Mirror Innovator's effect specifically says 3 monsters in your graveyard with the same type as this card. So it doesn't specifically say machine, right? That's what Type Change Beam was made for. It was a silly anime card to be used in a silly combo that was neat at the time. That's all it was. That's literally all it was. Straight to rush Duel Links cards would be nice. It would be, but I don't think they're going to. I think the Yuga play Tuning Innovator into Spellcaster, but we don't need that card. Yeah, the thing is, TCB did see minor play in Metarian. I believe in the OCG, Metarian did win one tournament, to my recollection. And in that tournament, it was playing Type Change Beam. But the deck was so inconsistent, it never did more than that, right? Because we had 40 card decks. We had no way to search because we didn't have the skills. So if you wanted to make, and also we didn't have reactor, so you had to hard draw one of your 3 copies of imaginary actor. So in order to make Matarian fusions, we had to hard draw fusion, we had to hard draw actor, which was only 3 copies, and then, you know, finding one of the other pieces is not too bad, but trying to get one you actually want, that's a bit more luck-based, right? So because of that, that's why it was balanced. Because to do an Ashura Star OTK, you needed to literally just find 4 separate cards in a 40-card deck with no way to make that any easier. And thus, in OCG, it was crap. And I think that's why Konami was worried about releasing Matarian into Duel Links and it doing absolutely nothing, which is why they gave us Reactor, because Reactor solves a lot of our problems. First off, we have a skill that lets us send Reincarnation to Graveyard. The skill can also send Actor to Graveyard. If Actor's in Graveyard, that means it's effectively searched, because now we can draw any of our Actors or we can draw Star Restarts. So that now means we have 5 cards we can draw into to get access to it. Imaginary Reactor also is Actor, so we now have even more copies of Actor, which makes fusion even easier. But on top of that, it also gives us a +2, and if we have a +2, we'll find fusion, right? Because you know, finding fusion in a 40-card deck with no way to search it, that's kind of a pain. But if we have 30-card decks and we get a free +2, that's going to make it a lot easier for us to find it. So the logic makes sense. The problem is it's too strong, right? Let's pull out your skill card. In Duel Links 20-card decks, skill with +2, 6 imaginary actor copy. I mean, it's 30-card decks, to be fair. To be fair. Yeah, there we go. Leading actor when? That's who we were talking about earlier, actually. Leading actor, this guy. So I played against this guy one time. I haven't really played against Matarian much at all. I played against again, in OCG. I played against Alex in character draft, and that's about it. Like, I have not played any like OCG players playing this card or playing this deck. But we can send the top 3 cards of a deck to the graveyard. This card's name becomes Imaginary Actor, so against another one. And this turn you can add a light attribute, normal monster with 500 defense and or fusion from your graveyard to hand. So we summon, tribute both, summon this out, send this card to graveyard, get 2 cards back. So it's a -1. Oh, it's not a -1 because you don't send it. That's just me being a dumbass. So no, it's a -0. And worst case scenario, you've just added 2 cards to your hand, which is paid for himself because you've got back like the material used to tribute it out in like terms of card economy, or you just fuse. And if you fuse, it's still great, right? Full Matarian Ashura Star when? No. Star Restart, but it's also a boss monster. Basically, the difference here is if you use Star Restart, you have to have a space free, right? You have to be able to... I mean, I guess you always will have a space free, realistically, when you make this. But there is, like, a slight difference, right? Because you could use this after you've, like, summoned it and you summoned another guy. But this just lets you, like, take fusion. Because you can't get fusion back to your hand with Star Restart unless you also bring back a monster. Because it's like, bring back a monster, and then you can bring back fusion as well if you want. Whereas this just lets you take back fusion if you just want fusion, right? But yeah, it's an awkward one. Well, since we've, we're talking about all of this Rush stuff, I guess we'll go on to the Rush discussion we were going to have anyway, since we keep derailing ourselves. So what I wanted to do is talk about, because this is something that we've been talking about quite a lot on Discord, and I've seen this in a few other Discords as well, is what would we do to fix the meta, right? What changes would we make to... In fact, we should probably change this over. We do... Where is it? That's there. Am I blind? How am I not seeing this? Not that one. Not that one. There we go. So I do that. No, that's not going to help. That. There we go. Okay, so let's talk about changes we would make to the meta, or to the restricted list, maybe unlimit some stuff, maybe limit some more stuff to try and fix what we currently have. That's what I kind of want to do. It's just a little thought experiment, right? Obviously, we're not expecting to see any changes to the list until after a GRF. We haven't even had a GRF announced yet, so we're probably not going to be seeing anything for a long time. But it's just nice to, like, theorize, right? Think about what could happen. And then it goes to field. Whereas this hand, so add back Dancer and then Beam Lamau. I mean, basically, I've already said enough about this Lamau. I love the deck, but not because of Beam though, which is why I think the hits should be impactful but fair. It's one of those things where it's quite easy to over-nerf a deck. I think a good example of this is Noodles, where realistically, you could have put Extra Spice to 3 or nerfed the skill, and either would have got the job done, but they were like, no, we're stamping this out, right? I only bring that up because it's like a good example of like the deck being completely unplayed. I guess another good example would be HTI, where they were like, no, let's just get rid of HTI, just straight up, just to get rid of it. What if we made fusion work like polymerization, so other fusion decks don't need to summon double tributes? So it comes back to what we were talking about earlier with how different decks have different like accesses that they play on, right? So for example, not every deck has a battle demotion, therefore Machine gets to be a little bit stronger than other decks because we have battle demotion and they don't. In the same way, we start getting that with fusion spells. So if we go and take a look at, oh god, let's look up Celestial Warrior. Where's that fusion spell? If we look at Divine Transformation, right? This is a card that basically acts like it's polymerization, but only for certain monsters in a certain archetype, right? So I quite like the way that they've done this. If you just made everything work like fusion, it takes a bit away from that. Generally, as we go forward, because right now, the big issue is we don't have any of these future cards, right? What we could do is, one, start bringing some of these cards back. Now, I'm not saying we should get Divine Transformation. I'm not saying that at all. But there are similar cards to Divine Transformation that for weaker decks could come out to make them a little bit more consistent. Now, the issue there is always going to be some decks have stuff, some other decks don't, but they are kind of sort of balanced around those things. Realistically, what would make sense is just to give us cards pretty much in the order that they were released in OCG, because then we get them at the right power level. But that would be boring, right? Because then it would just be the same meta again. And we've already talked about we don't want that. On a side note, we could unlimit Call of the Earthbound. I think the reason Call of the Earthbound is limited is to try to stop basically what the Noodle deck was doing. But Call of the Earthbound becomes a lot weaker in Pierce metas and multi-attack metas, right? And we're kind of at a point where almost every deck is a Pierce or a multi-attacker. Like, right now, Earthbound really hurts Metarion. It doesn't hurt much else too badly. Like, it's still good against some other decks, but it's not, like, super amazing, right? Unlimit Seahorse Carrier. There's a potential one. That's where Poly and the Archetype fusions come in. I mean, yeah, basically, it's one of those things where... So the big issue that Grand is talking about, the big issue, is right now, right this second, in Duel Links, the issue is summoning any fusion monster other than a Metarion monster is a massive fucking investment. That is the problem. Metarion don't have to invest anywhere near as much. Now, alright, that is a bit of a loaded statement. In order to make a Metarion fusion monster is a 3-card investment. In order to make any other fusion monster, assuming we have a skill to go with them, is a 4-card investment. And that's because all the other fusion guys have a skill that gives them the fusion for free. So we don't count that. So it's a 4-card investment because it's normal summon, tribute monster, the other normal summon, go. So it's a 4-card investment compared to Metarion's 3-card investment. Now, is that a big difference? Now, some people might say 4 is not a much bigger number than 3, but it kind of is. Like, in terms of card economy, having an extra card invested is actually huge, which is why +1s in Rush Duel are so important, and why Imaginary Reactor being a +2 is insane, right? If you're already at a point where you get to make fusion monsters cheaper than everyone else, and then you can also get free +2s as well, so you can potentially make 2... Because realistically, no other fusion deck other than Metarion is making 2 fusions in one turn. Now, they can, technically. Are they ever realistically going to outside of very, very strange situations? Not really. Cydra can 3-card fusion too. Yes, that is a very, very valid point, Shari. That is very, very, very valid. Cyber Dragon can also make a 3-card fusion. But that is not the norm. That is sort of Cydra's gimmick, right? In the same way that Metarian's gimmick is they can make level 9 monsters with only 2 wimps. Cyber Dragon's gimmick is that they can cheat out their guys and change all their guys to be Cyber Dragon, right? So, you're correct. Everything you're saying is right. And that should be something to be taken into account. But that should be treated as an anomaly in the same way that the Metarian ones are. The other thing I would say to that as well is the Metarian monsters get to be level 8, or level 9, sorry. Whereas Cyber Twin is only level 8, which means Cyber Twin can get hit with a lot of more trap cards. Now, we don't have a lot of those trap cards right now. Right now, the only one that's super relevant to that is going to be, I don't know, like Slime. And if we're not talking about trap cards, I guess we're talking about things like Cyber Assault, because Cyber Assault does just happily kill Cyber Twin, which is quite funny. Like, the deck's perfect counter as itself, which is very amusing. Extra card equals another attack, 1 defensive wall, another spell, defensive trap, basically, yeah. Counterpoint, what does Metarian do when without being able to fuse? Same with SRM and Dragis and Cyber. So, that is also a fair point, Manicust. The primary difference there is how often do you find yourself in a situation where you can't fuse as Metarian. I'm not saying it never happens. What I am saying is it doesn't seem to have stopped them here. It doesn't seem to have stopped them here. Looking at this, 51.9% of the tournament results, right? So, like, there will be some games that Metarian loses because they don't find fusion, or because they, for whatever reason, haven't found a lot of other stuff. There's also the case that you don't get... What's the best way to phrase this? Other decks that aren't Metarian will also have games that are non-games, right? So, for example, Spellcaster Fusion, bearing in mind it's like down here, right? This deck can search Fusion, but does have to still find Swordsman of Roadstar. So if you just don't find Swordsman of Roadstar, you don't get to do your Fusion plays. Now, this is maybe a bad example because this deck does do a lot of searching. I think a better one might be the Dragon Fusion deck. And the reason we're going to talk about Dragon Fusion, which again has no results so far since the latest box came out, but this deck again can just brick on high-level monsters and then just can't play the game. So, like, yes, can Spellcaster Fusion, Dragon Fusion, other fusion decks in general, can they play the game without fusing? Yes. Do they also brick, though, if they don't find the right cards or if they don't, have the means to play the cards in their hand? Yes. Is that going to happen more or less often than Metarian's not going to find fusion? That's up for debate, right? At least the Sidra skill doesn't plus them. That is another good point, Dwan. Also, welcome on in, Dwan. I saw you say hello earlier, but I don't think I said hello back. The Sidra skill doesn't plus you. And if the Cyber Dragon skill did actually plus, you would be able to effectively make 2-card Cyber Twin Dragons. Which is insane, right? Imagine making a Cyber Twin Dragon using only 2 cards from your hand. Because again, we're talking about it as if it would have to be like what? You have a Cyber Dragon on the field, boost its attack, and then instead of putting a card away, you just search the fusion. That would be bonkers. That's probably the reason why the Metarian and the Cyber Dragon skills don't search fusion. They don't plus you and give you fusion. Is because that'd be kind of busted, right? You basically be able to make 2-card fusions rather than the 4-card fusions. Because I think everyone here should be able to agree 5 cards is too many to make a fusion. We don't want to be spending 5 cards from our hand to make a boss monster. That's kind of silly. That's Exodia, right? That's 2 more than a maximum. And the monster you get, typically, not all the time, typically, is worse than a maximum. And you have to invest more cards into it. Now, the trade-off is, again, those cards are better when not being a fusion monster. So, for example, we can still use a Dragius. Dragius is still a fine card, whether or not we're fusing with it or not. Now, Dragius in this meta, a little bit weaker. You know, there's a lot more stuff that stops just the 2500 guy. But still, a Dragius is better than, like, a maximum piece, realistically. So, like, that's kind of the trade-off. The downside, again, is that with skills, everything's more consistent, which means if we're able to search things or get things back from the graveyard to put them in our hands or do whatever, all of those decks and, like, cards that were worse in the OCG, exactly because of inconsistency, because we played 40-card decks, because we didn't have all that searching turf, has suddenly gotten a massive, massive boost. Plus, the problem with Metarian is not the fusion. The problem is the extra characteristics the deck has, the ability to, with a +2 and the ability and the play with type change beam. I will say that I do think those two things you've listed are problems, and they're probably the two most obvious and easy to address problems. But Metarian still is able to make fusions very easily, and the boss monsters they make are still insane. Like, Ashura Star popping face downs are still really good. Vritra Star being able to change battle positions is still really good. I think people really underestimate Vritra Star especially. Vritra Star is amazing. Like, that card is actually insane. Just being able to flip a guy up every turn or get rid of a problematic guy and flip it face down is really good. It's really, really good. I'd also argue that for stuff like Spellcaster and Dragon Fusion are worse than most other fusions. So, bearing in mind we don't have many fusions in the game right now, what we're comparing it to is Metarian, we're comparing it to Cyber Dragon, and we're comparing it to Warrior Fusion, I guess, as the only real... Well, I guess Elemental Heroes. Elemental Heroes has loads of ways to try and get to their fusion. They really want to be fusion summoning every turn. Warrior Fusion, the fusion they make are pretty damn strong. One just pops defense mode, one just stops special summoning in attack mode. They're, you know, very good. Generally, if you do get this out, you do find yourself in a very comfortable position. Spellcaster Fusion, I do think Spellcaster Fusion is almost there. I do think this deck is almost good. The problem Spellcaster Fusion has, and the reason it's performing really badly at the moment, in my opinion, is it just lacks Pierce. It just doesn't have ways to get damage in. You make big guy, hope your opponent left their guys in attack, slam over them, and then slowly chip down at your opponent with, like, Seven's Red Witch. So that's why I think this deck's kind of bad. I think if we get a few more cards or a better skill or something, this deck could become really, really strong. And Dragon Fusion is actually not bad. The problem Dragon Fusion has is you can build it in a way that kind of has a good matchup into Metarian, and then it gets absolutely shit on by Galaxy. Or you can build it in a way where it beats like Galaxy, and then it gets absolutely shit on or by Metarian. So it's like, there's no good way to build the deck in a way that beats both of those decks, and then it kind of, like, really hurts it. And because of that, you have people going half-assed for both. They'll either go all in on one, and then just get knocked out of the tournament by the other, or they'll go half and half, and end up taking half measures on both sides and get bullied by everything. So, like, it's in a really weird spot. I feel like both the decks are, like, almost good. They're, like, almost good, but they're just not quite. Amongst card hits, I guess could add a shuffle card from hand into deck, then send Reincarnation or something. I mean, potentially. Definitely is potential. I don't even necessarily think the skill needs a massive hit. I think it's just take down the number of reactors that you have access to. I think that would do it for me. Ashura Star is better than Spellcaster and Dragon Fusions. Yeah, I think I agree. In a vacuum, if we were just to put those three monsters in a three-way fight, Ashura Star's kind of, like, but we do have type change beam. We also do have Ashura Star just having the versatility to be able to pop any face down is really, really good. I think just having the option... So first off, it's level 9, which is very good, because you made it from nothing, right? It's just 2 vanillas and a fusion. Whoop-de-doo. Level 9 has built-in protection. That's pretty cool. It can pop monsters and spell traps, so its versatility is even better. Then if you combine it with TCB, it has a whole other effect that will let it kill pretty much anything, and be able to potentially just kill your opponent through anything. So on that standing, it's great. The Spellcaster one is somewhat versatile, because if you can't kill your opponent, you can draw cards. Drawing cards is always really good. You could find back row, you could find more combo pieces, etc, etc. That's generically fine. Or you can just boost its attack to just really big, like 53, which is like, fine. That could end the game. Sometimes it will end the game. But it's not doing anything like super crazy. And then the Draggy, like Draggy F is like, it's a really strong guy. The problem is, if it doesn't end the game the turn you summon it, you're kind of feeling like, well, I've just kind of got this guy here that's probably going to die. And then I have to basically make another one to close the game. And that feels kind of bad because it was like a 4-card investment. Then I will say Draggy F is really good at what it does, right? Big guy, attacks twice, can have piercing or a big attack boost. The problem is it is not versatile. It is not remotely versatile. How the KC grind been? We have not started the KC grind yet, Shui, because we have just been yapping the entire time. I'd really love if we got Neos and another fusion or two for heroes. I don't think that's going to happen, Kuova. I really don't think that's going to happen. I think they are not going to give us Neos. They could give us Neos, but they would not give us Contact Fusion. And I think it would be a bit weird to give us Neos for that Contact Fusion, but they could do it. They 100% could do it. But I don't think they're going to. And we are definitely not getting Sparkman or Clayman for a while. I do not think we're getting them, which means we're not getting any of the fusions. It's barely better than SRM. I mean, like I say, Matarian, especially Ashura Star. Like, Ashura Star and Virtua Star, in my opinion, are the two best ones. Like, they're just so good. They're so good. What could Draggy Star get to make the deck better situated in this meta? Oh, that's a toughie. So, one of the issues Draggy Star has right now is the skill locks you into just using dragons. Now, that's not the biggest deal because Draggy Star himself also kind of locks you into just playing dragons, because his effect only works if we only have dragons and high dragons in the graveyard, and that is a theme with dragons going forward. Dragons are very xenophobic. They want you to play pure dragon lists until you get to stuff later on like the Red Eye stuff. Red Eye stuff is like, yeah, you can play fiends as well. We don't mind that. But a lot of the dragon monsters do have these like clauses and dragon spell traps of like, no, you may only have dragons in your graveyard. So it becomes difficult to like fix the deck's issues. There are tons of cards they could get. I mean, we were talking about some earlier, right? Vengeful Dragon's Counterattack. This card, believe it or not, would be fantastic in a dragon deck because it's just a pop. Popping a monster on the field is really good. Who would have thought? Light Galaxy is definitely gatekeeping combo-type fusion decks out of the meta, with the obvious exception of Matarian, whose combo simply wins the game. Yes, Light Galaxy, we were talking about this a little bit in Discord yesterday, but Light Galaxy is going under the radar. Because it is just not Matarian, people are kind of like, oh, we don't need to worry about Light Galaxy because Matarian's super good. If Matarian gets hit, and Matarian is no longer the best deck, Light Galaxy springs to life and suddenly is the boogeyman of the format. Like, this deck is so aggressive, ends games very quickly, punishes you for having low attack or low defense. Very, very scary deck, and it's very hard to hit it as well. How the KC CUP going? Neos without Contact Fusion could at least let us use Secret Order. The thing is... So this is another problem, which is... Secret Order is a bit of an issue. Do we want just a bunch of Secret Order decks? I suppose is the next question. Do we want like 8 Secret Order decks running around? Because if we get all of the Secret Order cards, we're going to have Noodle Secret Order. We're going to have Warrior Secret Order. We're going to have Psychics with Secret Order. We're going to have... So, dragons get Secret Order, right? We're going to have every deck. It's just going to be a Secret Order deck. And I've played through a bit of Gate Order meta, and I didn't like it. I didn't like Gate Order meta. I don't want tons of decks to have Secret Order, you know? That's why I was quite happy when it was released as a Limit 3. Also, there's the Avian and Bubbleman fusion that showed in the OCG. That has potential to come out for sure. The skill locks you into only dragon fusions, so just add more dragon fusions. The problem is, it's not necessarily super easy like that though, just because like, there aren't a ton of Dragon Fusions they want to release. And a big part of this is going to be because of the Dragon Fusion. Because of anime characters. So, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. We're probably not getting this anytime soon. Five-Headed Dragon. We're probably not getting this anytime soon. Especially because there's, like, some very interesting cards that you play with this. Because, like, getting out a Five-Headed Dragon, as you probably can imagine, is quite hard. Like, right now, we can't even summon this card. We need specific cards to be able to let us. Black Skull Dragon. This card could come out, but we would need something that can change its name into Red Eyes or Summon Skull. Or a skill that helps us do that, right? I don't think we're going to be seeing any of these Go Rush ones yet, especially the main character ones, just because I think they're going to hold out on releasing the Go Rush fusions until, again, like the anime characters kind of catch up with that. I mean, what else have we got in here? Like some Red Eye stuff. I mean, they could give us Thousand Dragon, but they'd have to give us Time Wizard, and Time Wizard would be funny. They could give us Alligator Sword Dragon, but then if we come off this and we go and check out the High Dragons, they're not going to give us Trinity Dragiastar, because this is the Luke's, like, ace monster. The same with the Dragiastar. The same with Double Ray Dragons. I don't think they're going to give us that. So the ones that we could get is Mirror Gear Star F, Meta Gear Star F, and Zero Gygeus. I think these are the three we might get. We also... We could get Full Moon Dragon Umbra Lancer F. We could get this card. The downside is, this is a combo piece. It's not an actual boss monster. Yes, Secret Order Noodles next, please. I mean, it could be a thing. Are there more High Dragon Fusions? Yes, we're looking at... we're looking at them now, aren't we? I mean, Sidra seems strong versus Galaxy. I think that's why before Metarion, it wasn't dominating the meta. Yes. So we are in an ad break, so I guess we'll just wait a sec before we answer these burning questions and statements. So I'll just give that a sec. And that should be everyone back from ads, fingers crossed, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, Dwan, but basically, yeah, Sidra has an okay matchup into Galaxy. Just because Sidra tends to play just big guys and can just get out a lot of big guys. Galaxy almost wants to just take advantage of low-stated monsters, pierce over them, and end the game really quickly. Cyber Dragon goes, I'm going to put 3 decently statted guys on the board, and you're going to have to chew through this. And in order to chew through this, you're probably going to have to use your Secret Orders, and you're probably going to have to use your Meteor Charges. And if you don't use them, well, then you're not breaking my board. And then you're not killing me quickly because you've used them to break the board. So it's like, it's awkward. It's very awkward. But yeah, to make the Dragon deck better, I mean... release these, I guess. Mirror Gear Star F especially is a bit awkward. Because Mirror Gear Star F is kind of a bit cheap, right? You can slam into your opponent directly for 3k, or you weaken your opponent's entire enemy board by 15, which is basically you're doing an extra 4,500 damage, assuming you can summon a big board, right? So... in a meta with only 6,000 life points, or a format with only 6,000 life points, Mirror Gear Star F seems very, very strong, and maybe a little bit spooky. I could see them giving this the Limit 3 treatment, and doing what they did with Yamitarasu, and basically saying you can only make one of this, and that's it. Meta Gear Star F is kind of whatever. Like, we don't have lots of popping traps, which means Meta Gear Star F, his one good thing, is kind of mid. Like, if we were in a meta with Mirror Force, we're in a meta with Dark Revelation, we're in a meta with Vengeful Dragon Counterattack, sure, this card becomes fantastic. But because we're not, it's whatever. It doesn't matter. Irrelevant. So it's awkward to basically try and fix, like, dragons. I think fixing spellcasters is actually a lot easier. You just give us... you give us the boy. You give us Master of the Sevens Road. Just give me this guy. You just give me this guy. Bam. Fixes all of our problems. He just has a built-in continuous effect attack gain And he gets piercing. Now, is this card too good to be released? Maybe. I mean, Matari aren't going to give a shit. If he becomes massive, they'll just yoink his attack and kill you. And he's just a spellcaster, not a magical knight. Which means, you know, Matarian can also just spin him away with without even using TCB. They just make Hercules Star. But this guy does kind of fix all the spellcaster's problems. For the most part. There's a lot of the time anyway, you could just kill your opponent with this. But, we were talking about changes we would make to this list. So, let's take a quick look. So, let's talk about some of the stuff that Manicist has proposed in the Discord. So, first would be... Oh, we can't do it there. We have to do it over here. That's fine. So, the first would be... Limit 3. Monster Reincar... I have to remember to spell this now. Okay. Monster Reincarnation. I guess we will grow this as well. So, Monster Reincarnation to 3. What else did we have on the list? If we move this out of the way, that makes things a little bit easier for me. So, we had... Imaginary Reactor. We have... Limit 2. Assura Star. Limit 1. Type Change Beam. So, what does this do? So first off, Monster Reincarnation plus Imaginary Actor to limit 3 means that we cut down the amount of Imaginary Actors we can run in this deck to 2 copies. It will be the WCS card, likely Dark Fluid. I have no idea what we're talking about there, Reversal. But yeah, so this basically means this cuts down the amount of reactors the deck, or any deck can run that wants to play Reactor, down to 2. Because why would you play Reactor if you're not playing Reincarnation? This does basically slap this to a 2. Which is fine, right? That's like a soft hit. It also stops you from playing it in other decks. Because right now, we're in a weird spot where any deck can just play this engine and get a free +2, which seems really good. Master of the Sevens. Ah, right. Okay. I'm on the same page now. Yeah, definitely could be. I don't see Monster Reincarnation being limit 3 because that would remove it from maximum decks, which isn't good. So that is a good point, right? We'll write a little note over here. So we'll do it over here. So MR 2, 3 would stop other decks from using it. And a good example of this would be maximum decks. What else is playing Monster Reincarnation right now? Dragon Fusion is generally playing it. I don't think any other decks right now are playing it. But, like, there is potential that could happen, right? No offense, Manicus, but that's the dumbest hit I've heard. I don't think it's bad. I legit... Because, right. My goal of what we're talking about here, personally, is... I want Imaginary Reactor to be... What's the word we're looking for? Reduced in number in Metarian. That's what I want, personally. Also, this is kind of small. It's not easy to see. Let's do this. That'll make life a little bit easier. So yeah, I want the number of reactor you can play Metarian to be reduced. That is what I want. I would also like non-Metarian decks to stop using reactor. Because it's just a free +2. So as long as you're able to use it, and there's no reason for you not to use it, they will keep using it. That's what I want. Why not just put reactor to 2 if that's your goal? So that I mean, we're going to talk about that in a second as well, Quantum, because that is the other option. That was my initial thought, was to put it to 2. Hello, Tomato. How are you doing today? I'm doing great, Skywings. How are you doing? So, we're going to just put some notes on the side. So this is what I want. I want Imaginary Reactor to be reduced in number. Whether or not that's 1 or 2, doesn't really matter. I just want the number to go down. Realistically, what I would actually like is I want Reactor to be taken out. I don't like them having Reactor at all. But they have it, so we're just going to, like, deal with it for now. I think TCB to 0 and meta is fixed. I would like TCB to be down to 0, personally. But I don't think that fixes the meta. I think that improves the meta. Because, right, the big issue with TCB, right? The biggest issue with TCB that we're having right now is TCB disincentivizes... We're probably going to spell this completely wrong. Disincentivizes going wide. What do we mean by that? If we leave 3 attack position monsters or 3 face-up monsters on the field, we can get punished, right? Whether or not that's punished by a Sure Start OTK, whether or not that's Hercules turning 2 of them into spellcasters and spinning them away, TCB disincentivizes going wide. That is the biggest thing TCB does, in my opinion. And a lot of decks actually don't have too bad a matchups into Metarion if they're allowed to go wide, right? If you can summon out, like Cyber Dragon, actually doesn't do too bad into Metarion, especially if you don't have to worry about getting TCB'd. At that point, you have like a relatively okay matchup there. What's wrong with other decks using Reactor and Reincarnation? As more Legend spells come out, the opportunity cost of running it becomes higher. So, right. The problem is, right now, it's very, very strong. First off, milling cards in general is quite a good thing. Now, there will be situations, especially in like the Metarion deck itself, where milling cards can be seen as a negative because you could deck out, for example. But overall, and especially as we go forward, there are going to be more and more cards that want you to have specific cards in the graveyard. Therefore, just having a guy that mills 2 is generally quite good. Right now, in the meta, in the OCG, at this time, people are just playing cards that just have the effect, mill the top 3 cards in my deck. Because you want to turbo shit into the graveyard to turn on different effects. So as we go forward, Imaginary Reactor's value increases. This goes up as well until we get to the point where even right now in the OCG, like decks right now are playing Monster Reincarnation and Imaginary Reactor because it is 2 birds of 1 stone. It's a normal summon that you don't have to normal summon, you could just set it. It also mills you, which again, a lot of decks right now do want, and as we go forward, more and more decks will want milling abilities. And it can also get you that +2, right? So like, it's just really, really good. And as we go forward, it's going to get better. As well as right now, it's really, really good. Now, there will probably be a nice middle ground where like some other legend spells come out. You might not want to play Monster Reincarnation. But eventually, as we again catch up to the OCG, its value will go up and up and up and up. And I think that's where the problem lies with it, is right now, it's really good. And in the future, it will be really good. Now, again, this is going to be kind of like a reverse bell curve, where there might be this middle bit where it kind of slumps down a bit. But, you know, like I say, right now it's good. Later on, it will be good. I personally would like to see it get hit. I don't think a +2 willy-nilly is particularly healthy. And also because we can't search, it also feels really sacky. Like, if you just, like, mill into your Reincarnation, like, it feels so ridiculous. I'm good. I hope Konami releases a new Rush character soon. All right, we know we're getting Zuijo Skywings, and we know that's coming towards the end of this month. The problem with TCB, only 3 to 4 cards to respond to that play, all limited. That is also very, very fair. Reactor to 2, TCB to 0 would probably solve the problem, to be honest. So again, that is the other option, right? Let me come over here. So banned TCB. So, right, what are the negatives of banning TCB? Let's try and talk about that for a sec. If we ban TCB, that now means that all of the Metarion effects become mute unless you're playing against exactly a deck that it stops, right? That it interacts with. Is that a bad thing? Probably not. I mean, they're designed in such a way where they're supposed to counter some decks and not counter others. TCB basically gets to say, if you just find the spell, you get to counter everything, right? So, like, I don't think that's a bad thing. What are the other, like, pros of TCB? You can do shit like Mirror Innovator, but that's very, very, very few and far between that's going to matter. You still have Pop, Flip Effect, and Attack Reduce. Yes, yes you do, Quantum. Those are all very, very valid points. And, like we're saying, as we go forward, Hercules Star's effect becomes more relevant because you're going to want to get cards out of your opponent's graveyard. Like, again, that probably won't be for a little while yet, but that will eventually happen. And when that does, you know, Hercules Star's value is going to go up. So, what are the other positives of banning TCB? Well, we did already speak about this a bit, but cards like Battle Demotion, right? Battle Demotion would be a great way to be like, oh, my opponent's going to play a Sure Star, I'm playing a machine deck, he's going to absorb all my attack, I'll change him to defense to save myself and not get OTK'd. Except, your monster needs to be a machine type, so TCB interferes with all of these type of cards. So I genuinely think that TCB being banned is probably the way to go. I don't like it at limit 1 personally, but I know some people will probably have a differing opinion on that, right? Then there's like a Sure Starter 2. I mean, does a Sure Starter 2 matter? Like, I guess if we weren't going to have Imaginary Reactor at 2, or if we were going to have it at 3, I think this would make sense. I kind of like, personally, Imaginary Reactor at 2. The downside of this change is... I mean, let's talk about it, right? What's the downside of Imaginary Reactor at 2? It takes... We take a Sure Star off there for now as well. It takes Negate Attack away. Now, if we put Imaginary Reactor to 2, other decks also probably won't play Imaginary Reactor because they would probably almost always rather have Negate Attack rather than the Imaginary Reactor. So that is also potentially a good thing. And at that point, then we don't need Monster Reincarnation to be at 3. It doesn't address the problem. Everyone will still have to play defensive. What is that in reference to, Quantum? Because I don't know, like, if there's a delay on the stream or not. Are we talking about banning TCB still? Or are we talking about not banning TCB? Or are we talking about Reactor? Reactor to 2. Reactor to 2 doesn't address the problem. Everyone will still play defensive. I'm confused. What is that? If TCB is banned and Imaginary Reactor's at 2, what's the... Forgive me if I'm being slow. Everyone will still have to play defensive. Because of what? I mean, in general, people are going to play defensive anyway. Unless they're going, you know, aggressive. Because generally right now, people are afraid of TCB. And they're afraid of everything TCB can do, right? If TCB's banned, you don't need Reactor to 2. So right, again, we were talking about this before. I want this changed, right? I want Imaginary Reactor to be reduced in number in the Matarian deck. And I want non-Matarian decks to stop using Reactor. That is my goal with this list. So we're hitting Reactor in some way. So it's like, now it's just the debate of do we want it at limit 3 or 2? If we put it to 2, that addresses both of my wants, which is I want Reactor to be reduced in number for the Matarian deck specifically. That's like the logic of putting it to 2. Because at limit 3, it was put to 2, but only if we also had Monster Reincarnation in there. Now, what you could be saying here is that you don't think Imaginary Reactor is a problem at all. But I personally think Imaginary Reactor is insane. Just a 3+2 is just nuts. Realistically, this would probably be enough. It still feels bad, though, that there's still not a limit 3 for Matarian. So I might even do something like this. I might even do something like that. Because every deck has a limit 3. Like, if we go to limit 3s, there are so many weird cards on here that it feels like they're only in this list because Konami wants every deck to have a limit 3. Why is Sparkcut's Girl on this list, right? Why is Gekka, the Shadow Flower Beauty, on this list? I feel like they're there because Konami just want every deck to just have a limit 3 to stop them from just playing whatever they want, right? And because of that, I would kind of like a Sure Star limit 3 because that just stops them from using the other limit 3 cards. TCB's play is why no one goes all in against Metarion. Put Dancer to 3. I mean, I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying. It would just be really funny to have a vanilla 1400 attack monster on the limit list. So what you're saying is, if we had Dancer, Sword Dancer, to limit 3, then you have to run 3 Sword Dancer. You don't have to run 3 Ashura Star. That's what you're saying. So by playing Sword Dancer at limit 3, that now says you physically are not playing other limit 3 cards. And that does make sense. It's just very funny to have a 1400 vanilla on the list. I also don't know if Konami would even think about that. I think with TCB banned, Metarion needs limit 3 open because I don't think you can play it pure without it. In post-zero TCB, you'd have to play something like Fusion Deal with Innovator or the Noodle Ninja version. I don't know I agree with that. So, first off, what limit 3 cards would you play in this deck? Right? Call of the Earthbound is the one that we're seeing play at the moment. The other one we're seeing play is... where are you? Ghost Cyclone. So we're seeing Call of the Earthbound and Ghost Cyclone seeing play. Genix Controller was limit 2 for like 2 years. That is very funny. That is very, very funny. But I think, like... again, it would get awkward with some stuff, right? Like, you wouldn't be able to play the Noodle Ninja version. Wrong eye one with that beam. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't think you need to, like, change the deck, like, drastically. Hear me out. Limit 3 Fusion and nerf all Fusion-related decks. I mean, it's only fair, right? Like, all the maximums are limit 3, so we should really have all the Fusions limit 3 as well. It only makes sense. I actually don't hate this. I think Quantum might be cooking with the Sword Dancer list. I don't think they will hit it. Like, I legit think Konami wouldn't think of that. But I do actually really like that as a limit 3. So I guess... I think that's everything you need to sort out Metarion, I think. I don't think you need to change the skill. I think this will be fine. This is plenty. What I think's more likely is that they won't ban a card, because in the OCG, Konami waited so long to ban a card. They were like, no, we'll just keep putting stuff to 1. Don't worry, it'll be fine. And every time, it was like, this card should have been banned. This card should have been banned. This card should have been banned. And they finally banned a card after so many years. So I just feel like Konami is stubborn enough that they just will not ban TCB. And if they do hit it, they'll either put it to limit 2 or limit 1. That's what I think they're going to do with TCB. And I don't think they actually would hit Sword Dancer, but I do think this is perfect. This would, like, sort it out for me as well. Put Meteor to 2. Yeah, we were literally about to talk about that as well, actually. What does Sword Dancer to 3 do? So Sword Dancer to 3 literally says you're not allowed to play other limit 3 cards. That is all it does. It says you're not playing Call of the Earthbound, you're not playing Ghost Cyclone, you're not playing Extra Spice, which is kind of the stuff that people have been experimenting with. That's kind of it. That's all it does. This also gives it future protection for any other limit 3s that come out. Because right now, it feels really weird that, like, every deck has, like, a limit 3. Yeah, Meteor to 1. Oh, it's just getting hit harder and harder, is it? But yeah, Meteor Charge. We were going to talk about this in a second anyway, because it's the next, like, offender, right? But we'll go over this quick. So Meteor Charge to 2, I think, is a good hit. May I ask what's TCB? Type Change Beam. So we'll bring it up quick just so you can see it. Just in case people aren't super in on the meta, we'll just grab this up. Type Change Beam. Reveal a monster. Choose 3 monsters in the field. This turn. I mean, this card is also commonly known as Gun. So if you ever hear someone talk about Gun, it's usually TCB. I was winning with heroes against Metarion until I got hit by Call of the Earthbound. Wait, are we talking about just Dancer to 3? Doesn't that not nerf the deck? So, some of the lists that have been doing well have been using the other limit 3 cards, right? Sword Dancer to limit 3 just basically says you're not playing other stuff in there, right? So, like, it is a nerf, but it's like, this is like a slap on the wrist, right? This is like, no, stop doing that thing you're doing. We don't want you to do that. This is the real nerf, is the ban and the limit of reactor. These are like the real nerfs. This is the slap on the wrist. Yeah, type change is just kind of busted. Basically, can just make the deck answer anything. Which I think is fine. I think a deck should be able to answer anything, just not easily, right? And I think that's the thing. Is I'm just reading Gunkan's Shari's name there. Is TCB makes it... Like, you still have to draw the card. You still have to have the card in hand. So it's not like free, but your opponent always has to play differently, right? It's the same issue that I've always had with Overlord and Rebels, right? Is Rebels and Overlord force you to play the game differently, and some decks can do that better than others, and then it forces the meta to pigeonhole into this weird, like, okay, but does this deck lose to Rebels? Okay, but does this deck lose to Overlord? And then the meta ends up, like, solidifying at a point where it's like, the decks that force you to play differently, and then the decks that can play around the way that you're being forced to play differently. It's like, that's why I don't like TCB, because it feels like it's the worst of both worlds. With that ban list, what does Matarian deck even look like? I mean, let's go grab one. Let's go and have a look. This probably has one. There's an Angel Cup as well. There's a Quantum Rush. We'll just grab all of these. We'll see which one's low first. All right. So, this goes down to 2. That's still fine. This changes into a different trap card. These 3 are gone. That's it, right? So, you play one more copy of Barrage of Steel to replace that. We then just need 3 spell cards or 3 more monsters. So, you could either just put in 3 Dino and just have extra monsters in the deck, or you could just put 3 of any spell card in. Right? Like, realistically, you could have card restoration as a trap if you wanted. Like, it's not like a huge deal. Like, the deck would still work. It would still be fine. It would probably still be really strong. I mean, Matarian is supposed to beat heroes because they are warriors. I'd be fine with Meteor to 2, but I would finally have space for Galactica Force. Galactica Force is a weird card. I feel like it basically doesn't nerf the deck at all. So, the whole point of these changes is not to, like... I'm not looking to, like, murder the deck. I'm looking to just bring it down a bit, right? I feel like Reactor to 2 is a pretty relatively big nerf. Like, it's not like, oh, insane. It still allows the skill to function. It still gives you 5 copies of Actor. It will still give you that +2, just a little bit less often, and that's fine. TCB getting hit is, like, absolutely massive. It's like, the other thing is, like, the only other ways to hit this deck is to, like, absolutely crucify it. Right? Like I don't really know what else you do. Like, if we start putting stuff on limit 1 and limit 2, suddenly the deck just doesn't work. Like, what would you do? Like, Assura Star limit 1? It's like, even that, you can still do Assura Star stuff. I feel like anything more than this is, like, super heavy-handed and becomes more along the lines of, I don't want to see Matarion being played. Not to mention, I think this is, like, a good initial hit, and then if it doesn't do enough, you just hit it again. Now, the downside to that is how infrequently Konami does their ban lists. Could be a bit of an issue. So I guess I'll pose the question to you, Grand. What would you do? What would you change? What would you restrict? What would you limit? What would you ban again? We're talking about a deck that is effectively tier 0. I mean, basically. I mean, yeah, if we take a look, 51.9% is, that's a pretty big slice of the pie. So yeah, what would you change? Reactor and Star Restart to 3? Star Restart to 3? So, my initial instinct is Star Restart is used by lots of decks to make their fusion summons. My second reaction is a lot of the decks that did play Star Restart are not playing it right now in Duel Links because we don't need it. We have skills that are recycling fusion from the graveyard. We're already able to get our normal monsters back. We don't need Star Restart in non-Matarian decks right now. And assuming that trend continues, we will never need Star Restart outside of Matarian decks. Like, maybe you'd play it in, like, Dragons when we get the Lug way in the future. Oh, that's the point, actually. You do see a little bit of play in Heroes. But Heroes doesn't have a limit 3. And Heroes, I don't think, play 3 copy of it. Because we had, what was it? We had, Giorfio play it. I don't think it was here. Hey, look, guys, it's me. I play tournaments still. Hey, look, it's Dwan. And everyone knows Bismuth. I don't think Bismuth's here, but, you know, Bismuth's here as well. But if we go and take a look at 29, let's take a look at Giorfio's list. The only person to, like, do super well. Yeah, that is a good point as well. Yami Ruler does play it, but I think most people don't care about Yami Ruler. So yeah, Giorfio wasn't playing it, but he is playing the Ghost Cyclone. No, I don't hate it. I don't hate Star Restart to 3. So again, I would have said that Star Restart to 3 is bad because other decks want it. But like, Heroes play it very rarely. And like, the Warrior deck, I think, will probably be fine without it. Especially as it gets more support going forward. The amount of consistency that Star Restart adds is crazy, in my opinion. It's fine if people disagree with me. It's just what I would do. No, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Again, the more I think about it, the more I think Star Restart to 3 is actually not bad. Isn't the view of all decks skewed, though? Because over 50% of decks are Matarian. Yeah. If Matarian disappeared, a lot more decks might suddenly crop up. That is a potential. Why are we hitting Star Restart? So, grand idea is we hurt the consistency of the deck that is able to very easily throw out a bunch of very, very powerful boss monsters and requires quite an investment to get rid of. Double fusion is fine without TCB. Right. Is it fine? Right? It's not game ending anymore. Is it fine though? If we summon out like a Vritra Star and an Ashura Star, we can change the battle position of opponent's monster, and we could pop a face down card. So we could pop a back row, and we could flip something up, or we could take like a problematic card, flip it down, and get rid of it at the same time. You have two 2800 guys. That's 2 attacks with level 9s, which means Slime is still basically useless. 2 28s are easy to out. I mean, it depends, right? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you'll effortlessly kill 2 28s, right? Sometimes it's not easy. It just becomes worse Galaxy. Oh, don't worry, Quantum. We're going to hit Galaxy. We've already started with Meteor Charge. That might not be the only hit. Right, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do this. I'm going to move Star Restart, like down here. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to put Reactor here as well. And what we're going to do is, we're going to come back to this once we've had a look at the other stuff. Because as we move stuff around, we might move stuff around as well. I mean, Restart and Reactor to 3 would probably make Metarion too bricky. Yeah, I do think... Alright. The way I kind of look at this right now, doing this top line here, this is... I want to stop getting killed by Matari and OTK. I want them to stop having unbelievably good value plays. I want to still see the deck played, but I want it toned down, and I want to feel like I'm not going to get punished for just playing the game how I want to. This is more, I don't want to play against Matarian anymore. Please go away. And if you are playing it, get lucky. Right? That's kind of how I see, right? Starry Start pretty good when you can dump Actor to the graveyard. Might actually be better than the skill does that now. That is always going to be the thing. Is the skill being able to throw Reactor into the graveyard effectively means that you have what? You have 3 Reactor in your deck, 3 Actor, and then because you have the skill, we take away one of those Actors, but we replace it with 3 copies of Star Restart. So effectively, as is, in a 30 card list, well, 29, because we're going to throw one in the bin immediately, we have 8 cards that get us to Actor, which is pretty nuts. That is pretty nuts. And I guess we'll also throw in a Monster Reincarnation, because we don't have to bin that. We could just draw into it. So we have 9 cards that get us to Actor, which is pretty nuts. Right? That's pretty crazy. Don't kill the deck, make it fair. I do think, though, you could hit Star Restart, though. I do think you could hit it. Like, what you could even do is take out Sword Dancer from Limit 3 and put Star Restart on there instead. Because, again, I don't think other decks really need it. I don't think non-Matarian give a shit about Star Restart. So, like, you could take off Sword Dancer, take off Imaginary Actor, put Imaginary Actor back there, and just have Star Restart as the Limit 3. I don't hate that. I don't hate that either. Just saying. Now, is that the perfect way to handle it? Maybe, maybe not. But I don't hate that. Again, back in OCG, Star Restart was like a staple. If you were playing Fusions, you were playing Star Restart. In Duel Links, that's just not the case. We're just not doing that. So, like, Star Restart is overblown. Like, it's basically seeing play in, like, 2, maybe 3 decks. One of those decks is sort of a meme. One of those decks is, like, okay, but it's not, like, doing super great right now. But again, if we do hit the other issue is they're both warrior decks. So even if we get rid of TCB, like, you're still going to get bullied by a Star. You're still not going to want to play those decks the way you want to. It's awkward. It's awkward. I think it's better to start with what you think a reasonable Matarian deck would look like post-ban list and work backwards. The skill will get nerfed, which could affect the consistency. Well, that's the thing. We haven't even talked about skills yet. We're just talking about cards at the moment. Like, what would we hit? Right, we'll put a pin in this. We might come back to Matarian in a bit. Matarian is obviously quite a big subject, but we'll take a look at what we're doing with the rest of the list and then come back to it. So, next deck is going to be Light Galaxy, right? Light Galaxy is, you know, it's pretty good. It's doing good. Some people actually hate Light Galaxy a lot more than Matarian. And the reason being is Light Galaxy is so aggressive and so fast that the game can just be over before you even get going. And to some decks, that's really frustrating and can be a little bit annoying. So, we have already limited Meteor Charge. We already have a limit 3 in the Secret Order. There we go. We got it out in the end. So, this might be an unpopular opinion. I actually kind of would like to see Secret Order go down to 2. Now, I know that's going to be a very unpopular opinion, but Secret Order is really good. It's really strong. The downside is if you take Secret Order down to 2, as is, that kills Light Galaxy. That, like, how does Light Galaxy really work if we only use 2 Secret Order? All of a sudden, you run out of plays so much quicker, you can't really do anything. As we go forward, it won't matter, because Light Galaxy will do other things. But right now, right this second, Light Galaxy is the, I activate Secret Order, I bring back my guy, I Meteor Charge, GG. That is the deck, right? So, it's hard to mess with any of that without, like, murdering the deck. In future, as we go forward, I would like to see Secret Order go down to 2. I don't think now is the time, but I would like to see it go down to 2 eventually. I think right now, Meteor Charge to 2 is good. I just don't know if this is enough. I feel like the deck needs another little hit, but it's hard to, like, it's really hard. Because I think you need to play as many Meteor Charges as possible. Like, that just needs to happen. Tomato confirmed hates vanillas. I mean, kind of. If we're being completely honest, nobody, at least I don't want the game to just be Vanilla Turbo. I think Vanilla Turbo is boring. It's so boring. Like, play good cards, right? With cool effects. Vanilla Turbo is just, it's nothing. It's Unga Bunga. It's Dark Magician and Blue Eyes White Dragon. I'm like, bruh. We don't need this. Like, we could just play good cards. We don't need to just play vanillas. Tomato's just trying to nerf Miss Mutton. I mean, you know, if the shoe fits. Light Galaxy is much easier to nerf via the skill. There is that as well. But also, it's not easy to nerf it via the skill. The anti-back row spell. Wait, you want... I don't know about that. I don't think you can hit one of the back row hate cards without hitting them all, right? There are exceptions, right? There's, like, the weird ones, like Jamp Check. That's on a different... That's a different card entirely, right? And, like, Cosmic Cyclone. That's generic. That's fine. We can hit those. But, like, if you hit... God, what's it even called? What is the back row hate for Galaxy called? Something Cyclone? Something Storm? Universal Storm. If you hit Universal Storm, I feel like you then have to hit, like, Magical Stream. And you have to hit Dragon's Gunfire. Or whatever that one's called. Dragon's Inferno. Like, it just feels weird to hit one and not hit the others. I also don't think it's worth hitting, like, Galactica Force. Because, like, let's say you put Galactica Force to 1. Who's playing more than 1 anyway? Like, it's a one-of. No one cares about that shit. And then if we were to hit it just so that your opponent can't play more limit 1s, they're not playing any of these anyway, so that doesn't matter. Galaxy is wicked Vanilla Turbo. Me? What was that me in reference to, Reversal? I need to know. I'm not keeping track of this. The other Light Galaxy decks are innocent. Galactica Order is the problem. I mean, basically, yeah. Like, I don't think we need to hit Reverie, realistically. The question is Meteor Charge enough? Is Meteor Charged 2 enough to hurt Galaxy? Because Galaxy is still a big chunk. It's still 27.3%. It's still doing well. There's a lot of Light Galaxy here. It's only got 1-2 tournament wins in this current format. But, like, it's still performing. We need to buff Reverie. The question is, would you unlimit Reverie? Because it's a hard one. Reverie can attack twice. We keep in mind we're also losing negate attack as well. Yes, you would unhit Reverie. 100%. Ooh. So, all right. Let's talk about Reverie. Let's talk about Reverie. Everyone loves Reverie. Reverie is DOA right now, right? It is completely dead. This card is seeing no play. The reason it's seeing no play, primarily, is because it's limit 3. Otherwise, we would... I mean, would we see this card see play... Right, what does unlimiting this card do? Limit 2 Meteor and remove all skill restriction. But the point is to nerf meta decks, not kill them. What are we talking about? We're talking about unlimiting Reverie. So how does that kill a meta deck? The thing is, the issue right now with Galaxy is there are so many decks that Galaxy gatekeeps. Because if you play a deck that has a guy that has 0 attack, or a deck that has a guy that has 0 defense, Galaxy gets to come in and slap your shit. And it's really good. Probably nothing. How often are you actually fully clearing back row? Well, that's the thing. Sometimes the game will just go in a certain direction where you just don't have any back row, and you'll just get to use its effect. Like, it happens. It happened to me in a tournament yesterday. Now, is that going to happen often? No. I need to take Scarlet's theme off of my playlist. It's too somber. Lets you play 3 order in the other variant, which seems nice. Yeah, that is what it does, right? It lets... Because you're not going to put this in other decks, right? Realistically, you're only playing this in its own deck. So, unlimiting it lets you play Secret Order. How... I guess, what would you even do? Would you play 3 Secret Order, 3 copies of... I'm trying to think how this deck looks if we unlimit it, right? Because we'd probably play... If we're playing Order, we're playing Oblivion. If we're playing Oblivion, how many bosses are we now running? We can discount Reverie. We can't discount Oblivion. So then it's like, if we're playing 3 Oblivion, are we playing Crayon, whatever its new name is? Because then we could use that to get back other bodies. So that then becomes the way that we discount Oblivion. We don't have a way to send Oblivion to the graveyard, I believe. Let's double check the skill. Because I haven't messed around with it too much. Universe Stormbringer. Can be activated from turn to onwards. All monsters in your constructed deck, Galaxy deck monsters, and all of the level 5 or higher monsters in your deck are light attribute monsters with 2500 attack and 2000 or more defense. So one card from your hand to the or field to the graveyard, reveal a level 7 or higher monster from your hand, add a Universal Storm from your deck over to your hand. Okay, so you can use this skill to send Galactic Oblivion to the grave, and then just, if we've hard drawn the order, just bring it back. I mean, that could be pretty good. I'm trying to think what this does to Greystorm Reverie as, like, a deck, because this also sends a card, which is quite heavy costed. The gain 500 attack is nice, just going up to 3000 is, like, that's nice. And then 2 attacks has to be on monsters. Yeah, I think this could work. I think we could unlimb Reverie. Oh, we're in the wrong one again. I think we could do that. I think that would work. So, assuming no one else thinks we need to hit the Light Galaxy anymore, I guess that's kind of Light Galaxy done. It will never get double attacks, let's be real. But it got double attack on me yesterday, Manicist. It happened. It happened, Manicist. In one game. One time. That means it could happen whenever. Is that Cyclone Valley? Welcome, welcome. Okay, so if we are happy with that for Galaxy, do we need to do anything else? Cyber Dragon I don't think needs a nerf. I don't think anything else needs a nerf. Then it comes down to, like, do we buff something? I mean, if we're buffing stuff, we're just taking stuff off of this list. Alright, guys, I'm going to say something that might be controversial. Phoenix Dragon. Does Phoenix Dragon need to be limit 3? Now, I don't necessarily think you unlimit it, but is there an argument for limit 1 Phoenix Dragon? So, again, for anyone that doesn't know, let's get up Phoenix Dragon. Now, unlimit it, just straight up. Fuck it. I mean, maybe. Unironically, maybe. Phoenix Dragon is limit 3 for a number of reasons. First off, it fixes your fusions, right? If you've got half of a fusion in the bin that's a level 5 or higher dragon, you can use this to grab it back. Second, isn't the trap limit 1? Yes, it is. So you'd have to decide whether you're playing this or the trap. But I suppose then at that point you'd be like, you know, do we take Dragon's Fortitude off? But, like, I don't think they will just because Konami hates traps. But, like, I think if you put it to limit 2, people would only play one copy of it anyway. Most of the time. Actually, maybe you could limit to it. Like, realistically, you could just decide to just get rid of negate attack. Because, like, if you had the option to play negate attack 1 Phoenix Dragon or double Phoenix Dragon, how many people would just play double Phoenix Dragon? Like, I think at least some people would. It's almost like Aim Eagle. Some people were just like, no, I'm happy just to play that. But I really like the idea of Phoenix Dragon coming back because, one, this card has seen like next to no play. This saw what? It saw play in exactly Ancient Forces. Limit 2 Phoenix, unlimit. I mean, I agree with everything you said. We are jumping the gun a little bit there, but I do sort of see where you're going with this, and I do sort of agree. So, I think we could do this. This is a soft buff to aggro. This is a soft buff to Dragon Fusion. This is also kind of a soft buff if you squint at it to, like, Blaster's Inferno. I really like Phoenix Dragon, and I would like to see it come back into play. And so I think that Limit 2 could be the way to do it. So we were going to wait and do this, but yeah, Hydron, I actually do think is a good unlimit. What is, realistically, what is... What's the deck called? Cyburst. What is Cyburst doing these days? Let's take a quick gander. So Cyburst over here. Cyburst has had 1 top 8 in this format. And if we're generous, we'll go back a format. Let's go see what Cyburst is doing here. 1 top 4, 5 top 8s. The deck feels like it's almost dead. The deck also still has a horrible matchup into Light Galaxy. The deck also can have a bad matchup into Metarian as well. So, like, it still doesn't beat these 2 decks. Even if we do hit these decks, we're probably not murdering them. Which means they'll still be around. Which means Cyburst will still have a shitty matchup into them. So what does this realistically do? It lets you play Negate Attack. That is what this basically does. It just lets you put Negate Attack in Cyburst. I think this is fine. I don't hate this. But what else is in the Limit 2 that could come out, right? I mean... Aim Eagle? Do we think Aim Eagle can come off? I think Aim Eagle will be fine to come off. Like, what's the basic machine deck doing right now? Seahorse? I think Seahorse is another good one. Meet and breed. No, that one can't come off Quantum. That has to stay limited 2. We're not allowed to play that card. We've got to keep the Meeg-chans down. But yeah, Meet and Greed could probably come off. Like, even if it became like a tier 1 deck for a bit. Just let it be a tier 1 deck for a bit. I don't think that's the end of the world. The only negative to Meet and Greed is it does put you back into the mindset of getting punished for just going wide. So maybe not this one. I'm going to put an italic on it. We're going to put an italic on it for like a maybe. Jamp Check ain't coming off. You're staying where you are, Jamp Check. You could stay there. Negate Attack, you can probably stay there as well because you're here just to like fix other problems. We're fixing problems around Negate Attack. Alright, do you want to know something wacky? This is just something we thought about. No, we're not doing that, Cocktail Samurai. No. But this was something I thought about. Now, is this a good idea? Probably not, but I was thinking about this. And I was thinking, when are people going to play Trap Hole? Realistically. By putting this on here, we would basically say, if you have Limit 2s, you have to play Trap Hole. Widespread Ruin is still a blowout card. This card is still insane. And in some matchups, is actually disgusting. I could see them do it to sell Trap Hole. Widespread Ruin... Because, like, Trap Hole is still interaction, right? We still get to interact. Someone stopped him. Alright, the logic is... Negate Attack is a really good card. Because you don't take damage from the turn. It's extra good because it stops 3 attacks instead of 1. And it's extra good because you can use it on guys that can't be popped by trap cards. So you can use it on maximums, you can use it on secret ordered monsters, right? Widespread Ruin is actually insane if you get to use it at the right time, right? If you can hit, for example, a Matarian boss, that's really good. It's really, really good. If you use it and get rid of your opponent's, let's say, I don't know, Dragia Star F, or you get rid of their 4-card investment fusion monster like a 7's Paladin, that's insane value. Like, it is actually really, really good. Limit 2 Earthbound. I don't know about that. We'll talk about that in a minute. We're talking about the Rush Time to Sleep Bedge. We've been talking about Rush this whole time, Bally. That would mean that every deck with Limit 2 becomes significantly weaker. Well, right. If we look at our Limit 2 list, right, we've just taken all this shit off of it. So what's still on this Limit 2 list? Jamp Check now has to play Trap Hole, right? So Psychics plays Trap Hole. Galaxy now plays Trap Hole. Thingy, Matarian now plays Trap Hole. Dragon decks can choose to play Trap Hole. They don't have to. They can still play Negate Attack or Widespread. They don't need Phoenix Dragon to have the deck work, right? I missed the KC part. No, the KC part just hasn't started yet, believe it or not. We've just been yapping this whole time. I wasn't expecting it to go on this long, but it is. So I don't... In the same way that we took Negate Attack away from the best decks, right? Effectively, back in... When was it? Transcendence, Mirror Gears? We took Negate Attack away from these 3, right? That was the logic. We took Negate Attack away from the top performing decks. Basically, what I'm saying here with this change... Oh god, there we go, it's over here. Is we take away... We take away Widespread Ruin and Negate Attack from these 2 decks. That's all this really changes. Also, I guess this one. We're also hitting this deck. To be fair, that is collateral damage right there. In that case, Unlimit Maginical Miracle. Ooh. So, maybe, if I did that, if I was to unlimit Maginical, the thing with Trap Hole is that you can't read if your opponent has it during your main phase, so you can usually play around it or adjust your place. Yes, you can, but you can't necessarily have a good out to it anyway. And Trap Hole would be good into exactly one deck. And that deck is Machine Good Stuff, because this deck plays both Jointech Rex, which sort of is the... like, Trap Hole is the counter to Rex, and it also stops Ancient Gear Golem. So, like, it's not even, like, a bad card. It's just, you wouldn't play it over the better options right now, except in very, very specific circumstances where you know very specific cards are going to stop you. It's also pretty good into Rebels, but no one's playing Rebels, right? So, like, Trap Hole isn't, like, dead. And it's like, back when... back when Negate Attack got put on Limit 2, everyone was like, well, Widespread Ruin sucks, so it's going to hurt the decks massively. And Widespread Ruin was still good, right? It's still really good. I think in the same way, Trap Hole, if people actually get forced to play it, would realize it's not awful. Like, it's not as good as the others, right? It's not as good as Widespread. It's not as good as Negate Attack. But that's why we're hitting the top decks. I personally think it would be fine. Now. First off, we can keep talking about Widespread Ruin, that's fine. But I did want to address what Quantum said. Unlimit Magical Miracle. If we were to unlimit Magical Miracle, I would probably bump Jump Check up to limit 3. So you can play 3 Magical Miracle, but now you still cannot play 3 Melody with 3 Jump Check. That's how I would do it personally. I mean, you flip or normal summon a low-level monster, and you know that they have it. I mean, does Trap Hole work on flips? I don't actually remember. I legit do not remember if the Rush version works on flips. No, it's only normal summon, so it will not work on flips. It's only if they normal summon. Because a flip summon, one, is not a normal summon, but also there is no such thing as a flip summon in Rush anyway. It's a really weird ruling. I'll be right back. Going to use Trap Pole against my Metarian opponent. So, Trap Hole, first off, Trap Hole will stop some Metarian plays. It will. Second off, the only decks we're actually hitting, like we were saying, are these decks, which I think is fine to hit. I think it's fine to hit the good decks. I legit think Widespread Ruin to 2 could be good. Could be a good change. I legit think that. Is it actually, like, something that's going to be ending up on this list? We can't hit Cyber Dragon. I don't even think hitting Cyber Dragon... I don't think Cyber Dragon needs a hit. But we are in ads again, so there's going to be a lot of people that can't, like, hear this. But does anyone in chat actually think Cyber Dragon needs a hit? Is anyone like, that deck is so strong that it needs to get nerfed in some way? Ancient Gear Golem? So Ancient Gear Golem is a problem. Ancient Gear Golem is a really scary card. But what do we do to it? What do you do to Ancient Gear Golem to stop people playing it? Do you, like, slap it in limit 2? And just, like... now it's like, yeah, you're playing, like... But, like, unless you're playing something super impactful, it still doesn't matter. Like, if a reactor's a 2... you can't play Ancient Gear Golem in, like, the weird, like, fusion deal builds. You're not playing it in this. You're not playing it in this. Limit 3 Ancient Gear Golem. So, what is limit 3 in Cyber Dragon right now? I'm getting out my deck editor. I'm going to have a look. Because Cyber Dragon itself is limit 3, I believe. If I recall correctly. I don't, like, pay enough attention to it most of the time. I'm pretty sure Cyber Dragon is limit 3. If we go filter, we'll just filter all the limits. That'll make life easier for me so I can look at them. Yeah, so Cyber Dragon's the limit 3. So what you're saying is, you don't want Cyber Dragon to play limit 3s. So Ancient Gear Golem is given for free. I don't think they'll hit it. I agree with you, Duan. But we also did get given Harpy Lady Sisters for free, and that's limit 3. So, you know, yeah, there's a chance. There is a chance. Now, that is a bit of a special case, but it still could happen. The thing is, I don't mind Cyber Dragon having Ancient Gear Golem. I actually don't like Innovator being played alongside Ancient Gear Golem. I think that combination can be a bit too strong. It's like Duel Links, they will ban Nightgale. And possibly. I'm saying Ancient Gear Golem is on the same level as Dragius and its limit. I personally think Ancient Gear Golem is better than Dragius. Now, I don't know if that's going to be a popular opinion, but that card is really good. 3,000 attack, 3,000 defense, so you can set it on turn 1 and be relatively safe. It stops you from being able to activate battle traps, which is actually just insane. Like, you can't use widespread. You can't use... we've got revitalization. You can't use negate attack. You can't use anything. It's so powerful. And piercing on top. It does so many good things. It's such a good card. It's actually insane. I think by comparison, Dragius looks a bit weak. Any free card is not safe. Left and release. This one wasn't. They don't hit free cards from campaigns, though. At least not that early. I mean, that's a fair point. I do think I have played a lot of games that have been won and lost entirely off the back of Ancient Gear Golem. It is very, very strong. But again, I don't mind Cyber Dragon having it. The actual deck I don't like playing against especially is the Machine Good Stuff list. Because, like, if your opponent just, like, slams down an Ancient Gear Golem and then you can't out it because, you know, you just don't have a hand that outs it, and then your opponent slams down a Mirror Innovator, you've got 2 massive pierces, and the first... Like, let's say you had, like, Negate Attack. That first hit is getting through either way, and you're taking a shit ton of damage. And then you have to decide, do I use this Negate Attack on the Mirror Innovator attack, where it's only going to get half value? But then you don't actually get a choice, because if you don't, you're going to die to the Ancient Gear Golem next turn, assuming you can't out it again. So, like... Again, Harpy Lady Sisters is a bit of a special case, because every maximum middle piece is also limit 3. And that will probably continue forever. Because I really think Konami just don't want the OCG version of maximum decks. They don't want these, like, I'm just going to play 3 whole maximums and mash them into one deck. Although, it would probably be 2, because, you know, we're 10 cards less than our deck. So it's probably a whole maximum just stripped out. I don't know if we hit Golem. Again, I don't think it... Like Duan's saying, I don't think it will get hit. But I also don't think we necessarily need to hit it anyway. So then it comes down to, like, buffing decks, I guess. So, like, what can come off this list? Dark Sword Magician. Do we need to have Dark Sword Magician limit 3? What's the negatives of like, bringing it off the list? Aggro good stuff piles might be able to get out a 2500 guy. That's the negative. Does that matter? Does it matter that you can spam out this guy? I don't think it matters personally. I think Dark Sword Magician come off. I don't know if that's a popular opinion, but I think it can come off. What else is on here? That's all gonna stay realistically. Thunder Gazelle. Does Thunder Gazelle need to be on this list? I don't know. I don't think it does. I think Thunder Gazelle can come off. Spellcaster buff? I mean, Thunder Gazelle is kind... Realistically, Thunder Gazelle is seeing most of its play in Spellcasters. So, Thunder Gazelle would buff Spellcasters. In a weird way. Yeah, Shining City Knights, this card can come off. I think that's fine. King's Majesty is a weird one. We only have one copy of this card. So all we would do is take it off of limit 3. And then let it out. But I don't think Konami would do this, just straight up. I don't think they... In the same way, we've got Dragon's Fortitude limited to 1. I just don't think we're going to get King's Majesty off. Call of the Earthbound is another weird one. I saw Manicus was saying to put it to limit 2. If Manicus is still here, have you got any, like, have you got any notes on why you want Call of the Earthbound to limit 2? I would like to know that. Does Dragius have to still be limited? What happens if it was unlimited? So if it was unlimited, you would start seeing people playing Mirror Innovator Dragius aggro lists. Now, is that good? Arguably not even now. We have the machine aggro. That's probably just as good, if not better. So, other than that, does anything matter? You would be able to play other Limit 3 cards in your Dragius decks. What does that even do for you? Like, right now, that would be Phoenix Dragon. So, you'd be able to play 3 Phoenix Dragon with 3 Dragius. But we were talking about taking Phoenix Dragon off the list anyway. You could play Shock Dragon, which could be very impactful. It depends. That's probably about it, really. Because you'll only run it at one most of the time, so you can run widespread in the good decks with limit 2s, and it's not, and the not so good decks will have it at 2 as another good back row. You know, I don't dislike that. Let's just put it on it for now. We're gonna remember which one we're typing on. I don't hate that. I think being able to use that more generically is actually kind of cool. Shock Dragon. Shock Dragon is a little bit spooky. So again, for anyone that's forgotten, Shock Dragon is a card that it was very similar to Join Tech Rex in the OCG. In that, a lot of decks would play this as like their 7th boss. This wasn't like the main part of the deck. This was like, I've already got all the bosses I want. This is the extra boss, just to fill out the numbers and make the curve kind of nice, right? That's what Shock Dragon did. We can send the top card of the deck to the graveyard. Until the end of this turn, all face-up monsters with the highest attack on your opponent's field lose attack equal to the attack of the face-up monster with the highest attack on your field. So, a lot of the time, this is only going to hit one guy. This punishes your opponent for going wide with monsters that have the same attack. I can't wait for card destruction and rush. I mean, I don't even know what they're going to do with that, to be honest. But this card can only attack position monsters turn. So, at the very least, this card is a 1600 nerf to your opponent's biggest guy. That's kind of what Shock Dragon does. This card can be a bit of a pain, but I think it's fine. Does anyone think Shock Dragon shouldn't come off the list? I think Shock Dragon could probably come off. Like, what is this card really gonna do? A lot of the time, it's going to be a 2-card investment. There's not really that great ways to, like, discount him. He's only got 1600, so if you don't exactly kill your opponent the turn you summon him, it's not, like, gonna be drastic. And also, just look how cool he looks. This is, like, one of the coolest looking cards, and his art goes really, like, unappreciated. I think we'll put Shock Dragon over here for now. Blue Eyes Bright, you can stay. So Speedy God. The card destruction is a legend card in OCG. You're not coming off Spark Carts Girl. I don't think we need to talk about Spark Carts Girl. I think we could just immediately... We could just immediately take it off. I don't think anyone's going to complain about that. Magical Miracle. I don't know. I don't know about Magical Miracle. Magical Miracle's hard. No leave. I think if you give Psychics an inch, they might take a mile. And that worries me a little bit. Don't care, I said I can't wait. Because I'm a play that in everything. And play, what's the other one called as well? Card Devastation as well. Start playing a mill deck. Ghost Cyclone staying. Extra Spice is staying. Excavate is staying. Swift Gaia. Alright. I can't be the only one that thinks Swift Gaia can come off, right? Swift Gaia is probably fine. Right? Does anyone object to Swift Gaia? Surely Swift Gaia is fine. Gekka? Gekka can come off for sure. Like, I don't know why Gekka is on here. Like, I don't think you need to have a limit 3 for every single deck. Especially bad decks that are seeing literally 0 play. Wilhel can stay, I think. Melody's staying. Mirageus is kinda ass. But when we get its fusion, I kind of want the fusion to be limit 3. And that doesn't do anything unless Mirageus is also limit 3. So I think we leave Mirageus where it is. Yeah, I think we do. I think taking it off the list seems like it's too bad. Because I think having the direct attacker as well as the 1500 AoE reduction is going to be really good. And we really... How bad would it feel if your opponent makes a Mirror Gear Star, attacks you directly, and then just summons another Mirror Gear Star quite effortlessly, and then just attacks you directly again? You've just taken like 6,000 damage. That just feels like it'd be ass. So I'm not about that. I do think, though, Martin could probably come off the list. Is that spelled correctly? Vinery? Is that what Martin's name is in the English? It is, Vinery. Fucking hell. Alright. Mirageus out, only Dragons and Metageus limited. I mean, Metageus isn't even limited. It's just straight up not limited. If it limit 2 or 3 could affect it. You're staying... You're... Blue Fang right now doesn't need to be on this list. But I think it will need to be on this list in the future. So we're going to leave it where it is for now. I think that's fine. Necroman. Necroman doesn't need to be limited, right? What realistically is Necroman doing? We've already taken Reverie off, and then it's Amaterasu. So that's kind of it. So these are the ones we're limiting from limit 3. Limit 2 we've already gone over, so I guess it's just limit 1 now. Is there anything in limit 1 that we want to come off of this list? So, alright, let's start with this. What decks are using more than one of these cards? Is this just the stop Blue Eyes from being a deck list? Like, who else is using more than one of these? Who is playing Sword and Shield that is also playing Burst Stream of Destruction, Thousand Knives, Dragon's Fortitude, or Woolly Wonderland? Like, the only overlap here, really, is maybe, like, Sword and Shield with Dark Magician? Maybe? And then, like, these two. I guess, like, Dragons would probably play all 3 of these. Burst Stream of Destruction out. So. Burst Stream of Destruction will eventually be at 3. Eventually. When it does get to limit 3, it's going to be scary. Right now, we only have 1 copy of Burst Stream of Destruction, so we're kind of fine. If we were to unlimit Burst Stream, what it does is lets you use Sword and Shield in Blue Eyes, which is probably fine. I don't think that's going to be like a big deal, right? So Burst Stream of Destruction, and then Thousand Knives. I also think Dark Magician is almost a good deck. I think if we got Thousand Knives off of the list, because we already have access to 3 copies of this card because it's just a rank reward, this could actually put Dark Magician into being a good deck. So what does that leave? I mean, do any of these cards need to be limit 1 at this point? Realistically, we could probably just get rid of this entire list. Like, what are we now stopping? We're stopping Sword and Shield and Dragon's Fortitude from being played with a Blue Eyes deck. Wow, I guess it's just dragons and... I think the only dragons that would use Sword and Shield is Blue Eyes. A lot of the time, Limit 1 could just be Limit 2 at this point, not gonna lie. I mean, Limit 2 might even be more annoying for these cards. Like, this, and this, we have at least access to more than one copy. These two, we only have access to one copy anyway. So, like, putting them Limit 2 is probably more annoying. Because, like, right now, you can at least, like, play this in Warriors, I guess. Right now, as is, without any of our other changes. That's also kind of the case for all of these. Like, if you put it over here, it would just be like Call of the Earthbound, where you just get to play it. I know, I kind of like this. I think we're not going to worry about these. I think I quite like this list. Ban TCB, Limit 2, Imaginary Reactor, Meteor Charge, Phoenix Dragon, Widespread Ruin, Call of the Earthbound. Maybe Widespread Ruin, maybe not Widespread Ruin. I'd have to think about this one a bit more. I do quite like the idea of it, though. Sword Dancer Limit 3 is a bit weird, but I do like it. Because, again, it hurts the deck. It punishes it a little bit, but doesn't, like, outwardly kill it. And then... Unlimit, like, a massive pile of cards. So let's see what was... So this is Limit 3... Go over it. If we do this, and then I do this. So this is currently Limit 3. This is currently Limit 2, 2, 2, 2. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 1, 1. Okay, so that's their current ones. And then we talk about just unlimiting them. I think this would look pretty good. You know? I think I'm quite happy with how this looks. So I guess I'll ask you, chat, is there anything else that you would want to change? Anything you'd want to put onto Limit, you'd want to unlimit? Anything needs to be moved around a bit? I think overall I'm quite happy with this. I don't think there's like anything other like major that I would want to change here. Where was that thing? I wanted to look at something quick. I'm just going to go find it. Shouldn't take too long. Nope, we just have no way to find it, do we? There was a stream that was a JP stream coming up. And I wanted to find out about it, but I cannot see it anywhere. Which is a bit annoying. That is a mildly annoying. I think Limit 3 Reactor, better to stop Sidra playing it. So, I will say, if decks want to play Imaginary Reactor, they now, as is, would have to give up Widespread Ruin, and they have to give up Negate Attack. I don't think I mind Cyber Dragon giving up Negate Attack and Widespread in order to play Reactor. Realistically, you're not going to play one Reactor. You're not going to play one Reactor plus one Reincarnation. I don't think anyone's going to do that. And if they do, that's going to be so unbelievably inconsistent. I think you'd want a minimum of 2 Reactor if you're going to run it at all. Which is why I don't mind this. And that goes for every deck, right? You're basically saying, is it worth giving up your good traps for Reactor? That's part of the reason why I put Widespread Ruin here. Because now, It's like you're not just giving up negate attack, you're giving up negate attack and widespread. And in some scenarios, widespread ends up being better than negate attack. So like that's the logic. Whether or not that ends up being like, you know, correct, I suppose, is a different matter entirely. But they're not going to hit widespread? Oh yeah, but this is our list, isn't it? Right? But chances are they're not going to hit any of this. This is like how we would fix it, not how Konami's gonna fix it, you know? And I think there's like widespread isn't unhittable. Do you know what I mean? Would Konami think of it? That's another question. If though, like it was presented to Konami and they were like, and you know, one of the people on their team was like, should we hit widespread? I think they would genuinely like have a think about it and decide if they wanted to do that. Man, I really want to find this stream. I'm like really struggling. The issue is I don't remember where it was posted. I saw it before. And now it's gone. This bothers me. Oh, I think it was on X that I saw it, or Twitter, sorry. But yeah, I think I'm quite happy with this. I think I'm quite happy with this. Unless anyone has any, like, last-minute things they think they want to hit. Then after this, we're going to go and take a look at the speed stuff. God, I just cannot find this. Just at all. Call it X again and we'll cancel you. I said that, and I hate it personally when people call it X. Like, I really dislike it. Like, irrationally, but like still. I irrationally dislike it. Okay, it shouldn't matter. We'll find it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. This is what I was looking for. When is this live? It's live. That's in 3 days. Okay, we're not doing that. Alright, so now we're going to go back and take a look at the speed tier list update. That is the plan now. So, almost whole stream time yapping. That's just a normal tomato sauce stream. And now we're going to yap some more because we're going to talk about tier lists. And we should probably swap over to our other view. There we go. That's a little better. Fake news. It is called Twitter. So, Predaplant got bumped up. Let's see what Georfio had to say. So, Lyrilusk is still a good deck. Despite its horrendous Ghost Trick matchup, the Predaplant matchup hinges on whether Lyrilusk finds Forbidden Droplet for the opponent's own Assembled Nightingale. The Flare matchup is now slightly better as that deck is gearing up for the Predaplant matchup, reducing the need for Raging Storm Dragon Buford. Lyrilusk is just really good at doing the same thing over and over again, and it keeps working even with the meta change. So, yeah, Lyrilusk is still Lyrilusk, is what we're learning here. Predaplant lists are all pretty similar now, and the deck has a game plan that looks solid into everything. Most players have cut Ningirsu package for a Nightmare Unicorn and Unchained Abomination in order to better answer Shadow and back row decks. The meta has started to adapt to beat Predaplant, running hand traps like Effect Veiler, Nibiru, and Retaliating Sea, which also hits Lyrilusk if they use Lyrilusk Bird Call. Regardless, I expect good performance from Predaplant this KC Cup. Yeah, I would be surprised if Predaplant didn't do quite well. The deck seems to have like a good answer to a lot of different things. The deck can also, like, I think a lot of decks will just struggle with Super Poly, just where it's like an uninteractable like card. Then Dwan, Predaplant is one of the hardest decks to play right now due to the large number of decisions you can make at any moment, but if you know what you're doing, you can manage your timer well. It feels like it's one of the best decks in this meta. So I haven't played much of like this Predaplant list. Like the list that I played was the like an Ambula Milides, like what's the word I'm looking for? Like turbo deck, where you played the pendulum ones. That's the one that I typically deploy. Fake news, it's good. Bird and Predaplant need a slap after the KC Cup. I think that's something everyone can agree with. I don't think they're going to hit Predaplant yet. I think Predaplant's still too new. But they will definitely, at least they definitely should hit Lyrilusk. Is that Yogi Love? Hello, hello, welcome on in. We were just going over the tier list changes. So Fleur, Shadow, nothing changed. Ghost Tricks come down to tier 3 and Sky Striker also moved down. I know some people that will be very upset that Sky Striker is no longer in tier 2. Thank you for the follow, Yogi Love. Do appreciate it. So let's have a look. Ghost Tricks turn 1 is one of the most oppressive in the current game, as they can gain a lot of advantage, set up Ghost Trick Renovation for a field spell Floodgate, and establish disruptions with traps. The issue with this deck lies in going second, as the main plays gets interrupted by any removal on the first Ghost Trick flip, which is something that Lyrilusk and Predaplant can't do, but every other deck can, which ultimately results in a deck that has results in relying on hard-drawn trap cards to survive. Coin flip reliant decks aren't necessarily bad, but require some luck to perform. Even so, I can still see this deck getting some top 100 spots in this KC Cup. So the big thing here is going to be that it has a pretty good matchup into the 2 best decks. So this is like almost Rogue, right? In the sense that it has a really good matchup into some other stuff, but kind of bad matchups into everything else, at least how it kind of feels. I've seen Shadow played as like a really hard counter to Ghost Trick as well. So like, from that angle as well, it's also going to be in a bit of a bad spot. But if the meta does become very Predaplant Lyrilusk focused, then Ghost Trick's obviously going to be completely fine, because it will be fine going first or second. Glad it turned out my intuitive reaction to do is read right, lol. I mean, that's good. But I think Ghost Trick's probably going to be fine. I think as we go on, the meta will start to kind of solidify. And this usually happens during GRFs and KC Cups, is it starts out one way, and then the top 100 almost create their own meta because they're all playing the same stuff. They're all playing such a large amount of games, such a small quantity of time, that they start to like really accelerate the meta as quickly as they can and really find like this beats this, now I need this, I can't play this because it loses to this. And it just like very, very quickly evolves and becomes a new sort of meta. And we've seen this happen quite a lot. I think in those sort of situations, Ghost Trick might end up actually getting left behind a bit. We'll have to wait and see. So Sharks aren't in a great spot right now. Even with Abyss Dweller, they struggle against Predaplant, and their matchup against Ghost Trick feels even worse. I mean, that's pretty good then, because that means Ghost Trick has another winning matchup in the top tiers. So, like, that's not looking too bad. The issue is, again, like, Shadow, right? Fleur's still going to beat it. Sky Striker's still going to beat it. Their main strength relies on opening specific tech cards, which isn't the most reliable form of disruption, especially without any inherent draw power. Welcome back, Victor. We've just finished going over our rush list, and we're now taking a look at the current tier list changes of the speed duel meta. So this meta has 2 well-defined decks at the top, and Sky Striker... I don't know what this is meant to be. Sky Striker, a bad matchup against both. Has. There we go. We got there in the end. Has a bad matchup against both. It used to pretty much counter all the low tier / rogue decks, but those decks are falling out in popularity to Lyrilusk and Predaplant, leaving Striker in a bad spot. The matchups against the best decks aren't unwinnable, but they're definitely better options than Sky Striker. So, my internet decided to have issues for hours. I mean, that is unfortunate. Why is Infernoble just up here? Infernoble Knight has seen a few tops this week, incorporating Nibiru into its 3 tech slots, which helps cover its matchups against Lyrilusk and Predaplant. Also, the deck would normally auto-lose to Book of Eclipse, but Nibiru helps remedy this since it only tributes face-up cards. However, Nibiru being selection box locked might prove problematic for overall usage. I mean, that is absolutely fair enough. But let's see what's happened to Borrowlink and Unchained, because a lot of people were thinking that Borrowlink was never coming off this list ever. So there isn't much to say about Borrowlink. The deck doesn't have any favourable matchup against the other decks on the current tier list, hence its demotion. That's fair enough. I mean, Borrowlink is a bit of a weird deck where it's kind of always just been solid. It's kind of always been around. But, like, I never felt like it was oppressive. Like, it was always decent, but, like, never, like, insane, right? Don't forget about Shark with Sky Striker. The old Sky Sharks. Never forget the Sky Sharks. Unchained seems very strong against Ghost Trick. They have multiple ways to deal with back row, and if they summon Unchained Abomination, the game is usually over. However, the deck falls short against nearly every other deck in this meta. I mean, I guess that's fair. Realistically, what's it doing against these? What's the Shadow matchup like? I suppose you're not realistically... You can't really, like, link off your opponent's cards against Shadow if they get out, like, Winder. Rolling is not that bad, but it's better than more... Better than more than the other matchups. It all depends on what you run in it. I mean, yeah. Let's see what people are saying. So, Borrowlink leaves, like, nothing after being meta for, like, half a year. Crazy. There's a typo in Jorfia's comment. It's whatever. Predophiles, Jesus. Time Thief was stronger than Shark. Infernoble. Of course, Jay is here with the Infernoble. Oh, it's Yogi as well. Oh, Crimson Reaper. What's going on here? I don't know if I'm prepared to read all of this. We're just going to skim it. We're just going to gently skim it. U-Boy decks, falling into power creep, ban list, overall agree with current tier list. Okay. Crimson has written so much in the last two tier lists. I mean, it's fair enough, right? If you've got a lot to say. I just wonder if there might be a more concise way to say it. Infernoble, the one thing I don't like about this deck, right, and it's something I've always disliked about it, is shit like this. Like Metal Silver Armor. Like, Graal seems to be gone now, but like I've just always hated like the weird floodgate-y equip spells that you play in them. I've just never been a fan. The last one was like 3 pages long. Well, by the looks of it then, he has improved, and that is a good thing, right? We've kind of... We've kind of reached one of those points again, where... we have come to nearly our end time. And we, it's not really enough time for us to, like, start doing anything. So, I think... we're just going to be ending. We're like just under 10 minutes early than usual, so it's not a huge thing. Last time, I think we actually finished half an hour early, just because it was like, is it worth like starting to grind ladder with only half an hour? I can't really get into it. We'll like barely de-rust, and then we'll just die. Title is lie, you never played KC. You're not wrong, Shui. You're not wrong. We did not play in the KC Cup. Ah, replay. Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll do that. We did say that we would watch Manicus replay, and we do still have some time left. So... we will go and do some replay shenanigans. That's what we're going to do. And then we're going to stop. Skip dinner, longer stream. Mate, I can't. The other thing is that today, specifically, I have stuff to do tonight, so I physically can't. Let's go to friends. Let's go and grab Manicist. So I'm going to assume it is the latest one. I think that's what you did say. So we'll check this out. But what we are going to do, just to... show that we feel bad, is we're going to throw the shout out to Shui, since he never got to see it. And I never skipped dinner. Last thing, I need to finish this up so that I can eat. Then I've got some work to get on with, followed by like some actual stuff I've got to do later. So like, it's not an easy one to actually just keep going. So this would be Manicist playing, I assume, the Ancient Warriors, and this is going to be against the Birds. Okay. So we're going to use Zhuge Kong. We grab out the Savage Don Ying. We summon out the Don Ying. We've got our Saga out. We're then going to summon out everyone's favorite Valiant Zhang Dai. Dragon Lords comes out. Dragon Lords is such like a weirdly good card. Oh, so we're also going to summon out Zhuge Kong and Lu Feng. Ooh, okay, so we do have the negate on Zhuge Kong to stop that by sending the Saga to the grave. Going to show us Warbler. We're going to be sending Wagtail. Banish to summon out the Wagtail. No, we banished the Wagtail. So we're going to just keep burning our opponent. What are we actually burning with? It's Don Ying, right? So while your opponent controls those... don't care about that. Your opponent must pay 400 life points to activate a card effect. So we're basically forcing our opponent to pay taxes right now. That's what's happening. Somehow I expected a rush replay. I mean, that's what we usually would do here. So we're going to overlay into Assembled Nightingale. Wow. We're going to use Sparrow. And then we're just going to keep forcing our opponent to pay their taxes. There's no tax evasion here. Keep paying. Keep paying. That's half of our opponent's life points just to taxes so far. Bird humming. Send that. Grab out the Cobalt Sparrow. Flip up the Sparrow. Pay another 400. Special summon. Special summon again. Then we're going to overlay into... This is going to be... Promenade Thrush. Which one's Thrush? Is this the... This isn't the bounce one, is it? One spell trap. Shuffle it into the deck. That's it. It's just a spell trap. Hey. Why did we make this? Why did we specifically make this instead of the one that bounces monsters? Is it... I feel like this was a mistake, but I don't play birds enough to actually know. We're going to keep forcing our opponent to pay the taxes. Wait, did this guy get a spell card back for us? No, that's not. Okay. So we've got Bird Sanctuary down. That's fine. It's bigger. But does its attack matter? When we know we're not going to take any damage because we have Nightingale. And we know we're not going to have our guys destroyed because we have Nightingale. Because it bounces on summon. Yeah, I think I'd still rather have that than Thrush in case you like combo off or something. Gives 900 attack, but it was a mistake, I guess. They don't have any life to do anything, so they can't activate it. That is very funny, actually, on 400 life. Why would we even bother doing anything? Oh, that is so funny. The boy himself. So what exactly is his effect? Once per turn during the main phase, quick effect, you can destroy one face-up monster your opponent controls. If only they could pay life points, then he could have saved himself. He should have been able to activate it though, right? Because you can activate life point cost effects if it would exactly kill you, I believe. What about your KC grind? The KC grind, unfortunately, is not happening today. We spent too long yapping. Might just make Recital and just crash. Best part is you can summon 2 Dong on the field. It stacks. Oh, that is so funny. I've always been a fan of Tax Dragon. I forget what he's called, but the dragon that, like, I think every time your opponent special summons, they have to pay, like, 500 life points. Or 800? Might be 800. I can't remember. I think they had game if they played it correctly. I mean, probably. They're playing the best deck in the game, and they were playing against Ancient Warriors, so they probably would have. But Manicus board was still pretty cool, right? There was a Spell Trap Negate. There was a Bounce. There was a Monster Pop. And there was obviously the Taxman, right? That was kind of the whole board, which is a cool board to make. No, they can activate if you got exactly. They can't activate if you got exactly. Oh! I thought you could. I thought you could kill yourself with Imperial Order. Yeah, they had the game. They threw this. The issue is Brown Lyra activates the play. Well, you know, there is that. But after that, now it is the second time we're going to the stream ending screen. But thank you all so much for watching. This has been a fun one. We got to yap, and yapping is our favorite thing to do. We did... Imperial Order is a mandatory pay. Ah, I see. But you can't pay it if you don't have the life points for it, right? Like, it just doesn't work. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. We got to take a look at our potential limits and unlimits, the changes we would make. We'll probably make a video about that. That's probably what we're going to do, because it is something I'm quite interested in. I do like talking about it. We unfortunately didn't play much KC Cup. On Thursday, we will be playing in potentially what is going to be the last Angel Cup. It does look like they are indefinitely putting it onto hiatus, which is a shame, because that's quite a good thing for us to do. We do like playing in more tournaments, and it's at a really nice time, and it's what we do kind of stream, so it's a bit of a shame. But on that note, we will be again playing in that on Thursday. Give it a nice little send-off. We'll see if they do any more in the future. But we will be back again on that Thursday playing that. I don't know if Japan has had their daylight savings change yet, so I'm not sure what time we're starting yet. We will be starting along with the Angel Cup. So every time the Angel Cup starts, that's when we're going to start stream. But, again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.